Hey everyone, this is Ben from the Gorge with Ben and Sara, and you're listening to the BS Podcast Network. This is The Gorge, the podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a topic.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge, where for just $5 a month you gain access to not one, but two podcasts. That's hell you're walking into. A monthly podcast where I force Ben to know what an ancient alien god is and what a lost belt is, as we dive deeper and deeper into the extended knowledge of the Nasuverse. And Takeout is a monthly commentary track where we just watch stuff and make fun of it instead of actually playing anything. This last month was exceptionally dire. We watched Transformers: The Lost Night, and I truly hated every single second of it. Yeah.
That was the bottom of
it was the bottom
media.
And also the bottom of anything we've ever watched for Takeout. Truly. I don't think it's ever been so bad.
I would rather watch more X-Arm than watch The Last Night again.
Oh, I would have had so much more fun if we had watched more X-Arm. Are you kidding me? I would have had a way better time than watching The Last Night. The Last Night is truly one of the most dogshit pieces of media I've ever been paid to watch. So, frankly, if you're listening to it to listen to me and Ben suffer, you're having a great time in that case. So if you want to hear that and all of the other content we've put out, we have a fair amount of backlogged Patreon exclusive content now. Head on over to patreon.com/thegorge and kick in however much you feel comfortable with. We appreciate every single one of our patrons.
And special thanks to our patrons: Red Lantern Reviews, Holy Star 64, Neon Hellcat, Patrick Perez, Roddy 1/2, Hasso Toby 27, Saturn, Alice Marks, Shia, Otzi, Magus, Aquamancer, Jack, Liam Lane, and that other one dude.
Thanks, guys. We love you.
So, Sara, what are we doing this week?
This week is... Today, actually, is Monday, May the 31st. We are getting in literally at the last possible minute and wrapping up TransforMAY by talking about Transformers Lost Light, aka the Season 3 of More Than Meets the Eye. A podcast I have been dreading solely because I am afraid to cry on recording yet again. Because it's gonna happen. Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about it because I really, really like Lost Light a lot. But I'm also very nervous because I'm afraid it's gonna be another 4-hour episode, and it's very dense. There's a lot of information in this one.
It's kind of one of the things I actually don't like about Lost Light is that it is kind of just moving forward with the plot.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of breathing room, and I wonder if part of that is because basically they got Rise of the TMNT'd, where it was like, hey, IDW is ending, you gotta wrap this shit up, you know?
Mm-hmm. I don't think they were abruptly canceled. I think they knew it was going to come eventually, but I think they just didn't get as many issues as they thought they were going to.
Yeah, that's it. Is that they just, they were not given as much time to tell the degree of story that they wanted to tell. So it was like, we gotta pack this in real dense. So there's a lot of a lot of really high highs, but also a lot of stuff that is kind of like your eyes are just kind of like, okay, this is a lot of information to take in, guys. You know, there's an entire volume that's basically just about like Getaway and his whole problems, like a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily tied to like what's going on with like Rodimus and the others.
Right.
And I kind of go back and forth on whether or not I like it. I think I've settled on I like it because as much as I hate Getaway, I do think it's all extremely interesting. Like, everything going on with Getaway is interesting, even if I do think he is a spineless little prick.
Right.
So, I fall on the side of ultimately really liking Lost Light, but maybe that's just because it ends with such a bang.
Lost Light is... I really, really enjoy it, but it's the season that I'm, I guess, least willing to just reread casually. Mm-hmm. Like, it's more of a mental investment to do Lost Light than More Than Meets the Eye season 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. Because it is a lot more setup going into Lost Light.
Yeah.
Because it's like I said, they're like, we've got to get everybody in the same place by the last volume, come hell or high water. Like, all of these major characters have got to be at Maderi no matter what, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like, we've got to really like hyper focus on certain plot elements to make sure all of our ducks in a row as we go into the finale. So it is a little bit more of but it also means that it's highly, I think it's hard to go back and reread, but when you're in it, it is highly bingeable because it is extremely like cliffhanger heavy, where it's just constantly like, well, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Mm-hmm. I took my sweet time reading the first 2 seasons. I was doing like a volume a night, which I think is pretty reasonable. So I would, you know, every night I was clearing. So, you know, that's 10 volumes. So it's 10 days. That's a pretty decent amount of time to kind of get through that much content. I read all of Lost Light in a day.
Yeah. You just tore right through it.
I couldn't put it down. No, because I was so like, I have to see, if I have to wait, if I have to go to sleep and then work, so like wait 16 hours before I have to go back to reading more of this, I don't know if I'll make it. I might be a crazy person the whole time I'm working, just thinking like, I could be reading Lost Light. So ultimately I fall on the side of like really, really liking it, even though I get like its issues. But also, I think part of that stems from the fact that like it is aggressively about like Rodimus and his problems. And I really like stuff that's about Rodimus and his problems, so
it works out for you.
It works out for me, yeah. I really like this extremely troubled boy. We'll get to that. So,
so yeah, just like we did for the last 2 seasons, we're just going to kind of break it down by story arcs. Mm-hmm. And try to contain all of our thoughts within each story arc instead of jumping all over the place like crazy people.
Oh god, and we could do this just like the machete cut version of talking about the Lost Light, where we just bounce around constantly. We're not going to do that though. So Ben, kick us off.
So the first story arc in this series is Dissolution.
Okay.
Which is the story arc where they've decided they have had enough of the Necrobots planet, and they are going to go home and get a new ship to chase Getaway. And they warp to Cybertron, and oops! Remember literally the last thing that happened in More Than Meets the Eye? Where a bomb went off, and they just kind of like didn't really talk about that?
Yeah.
It turns out they blew themselves into another dimension.
Oopsie doodles.
But first, by the way, we have our new audience surrogate character, James Roberts tries again. Maybe he has learned from his mistakes from Tailgate and Nautica by giving us Anode and Lug.
Yeah.
And then very quickly reveals that he did not learn his lesson. And once again, he has made an audience surrogate character who is too weird to be like
an audience surrogate character.
to like be uncomfortable with the situation around them.
Right. They are unfortunately already extremely used to being in strange circumstances, and as such, none of this shit really bothers them, so they just kind of fit right in with no problem. Whoops. But hey, we've had a lot of gay robots. We finally have some lesbian robots. They're adorable. They have great designs. That's one of the first things that I was noticing when I was skimming through to make notes for this. Mental notes, never write anything down. But like, Lug and Anode have great designs. Like, they're really cute and like solid, and they're not like your standard, like, I love Velocity and Nautica and RC, but they're and Windblade, but they're all very sexy, like they're like hot girl robots, and I love a good hot girl robot because I love hot girls. But I kind of love that these two just kind of look like, like more simple kind of boxy designs that aren't necessarily meant to be like super hot girls. They're just like some chicks.
I do like. I especially like that we never really. I guess we do see hers, but we only see Anode's alt mode for a little bit. I love that it's like an old style biplane.
Yeah, it's like a propeller plane. I love it. It's so
really nice. Like when you think about her compared to like fighter jet Windblade.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Like it's great. I love it.
It does a good job of the whole, like, these two are like dumb adventurer chicks who are always getting in trouble. So of course one of them would be a biplane, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she even has like built-in fighter pilot goggles.
Yeah, exactly. All she needs is a cool scarf.
It's great. I love it. Yeah, so we meet Banjo and Kazooie.
Shut up. God, get out of here.
I'm right.
You've been holding on to that one too. You bitch. You're right though. I hate it.
And they are the ones who are kind of the representatives of the like group of Cybertronians that were saved by the Necrobot.
Sure.
And they get to hang out and meet the crew.
Get to talk about how boring Magnus's speeches are.
To interact with Swerve to get it out of the way.
Get yelled at by Velocity. Reveal that Nautica has a bit of a cop side. God love her. You poor child. Don't worry. We'll train that out of you. And yeah, otherwise just get into a lot of trouble and do some good old fashioned sci-fi science shit later on. Mm-hmm. But the real meat of this volume is the Functionist universe, which owns everything going on in the Functionist universe. Storyline kicks ass. It's just the best. It
right away you get probably one of the best exchanges ever when the crew first gets captured by the Functionists and Minimus tries to give Rodimus a pep talk.
That is literally, I think that's one of my top 5 favorite panels in this entire, like the whole sprawling epic of More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light. I think Rodimus going, God, I was depressed, but now I'm depressed and angry, is one of my favorite panels in the entire series.
Can I be chained to someone else?
We talked real briefly. Roddy got a new paint scheme.
Yeah, he went goth.
It looks so odd. I never got used to it. It's one of those things that I'm just like, no, go back. And I mean, he does go back. It's a big moment. But like the whole time you're looking at it, you're like, this is not my boy. I know you're having you're having like a moody moment, like you said. He's going through his goth phase, looking like a Decepticon, and it's like, buddy, put it back. You look better in red.
Have you ever seen a character redesign that was so blatantly done so they could revert back to normal later?
Yeah. That's exact. They were like, we got a moment planned later, and we need that paint to go away in an extremely dramatic fashion.
Like, you know when like a superhero gets a new costume, and they at least like try to be like all new, Spider-Man, all new adventures. Like this, nothing will ever be the same. And they at least pretend for a while
they make the effort.
This is something they intend to stick around until everyone gets mad and they're like, no, okay, sorry, we'll go back to the way it used to be.
No, not here. They know, from the beginning. It's like, oh, this paint scheme's going away in a very dramatic moment. Don't worry.
And the best indication of that is that he has like one toy kind of in that color scheme, and it's the evil Rodimus.
Of course. Oh yeah, no, that paint scheme was not long for this world. It's fine. He's having his goth phase. Let the boy work through his issues. He's so grumpy in this volume too.
He really is. Like there's a lot to talk about.
He's so mean in this volume.
So they get captured and then they get broken out by the rebellion, the your bog standard rebellion, rebel squad type.
That all suck, yeah.
Anode is there.
And she's actually a functioning adult in this timeline. Good for her.
Which was, I think that is a weird pick. I am curious to wonder why James Roberts picked her to be like this is the character, besides wrong obviously, but this is the character that because she is brand new at that point.
Right.
And it's like, is it like character push? Like, please understand that Anode is going to be a major character in this? Or was it just like, he was really excited to use her for things?
Maybe, I don't know. I lean toward 2. Maybe it's to show the contrast of the fact that she is capable of doing more than just being kind of a shitty kid robot character, Mm-hmm. Shitty kid in the metaphorical sense, not in the literal sense. Because, like a shit kid teenager.
Yeah, because she's a grown-ass woman in this.
She is an adult woman, but when I say a shitty kid, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Maybe it's to show that she is smarter than she lets on, because she is, kind of a mess. I don't know. Maybe James Roberts just really likes Anode, which, I mean, fair.
Yeah, I do too. I'm just curious because, you would think, normally that role would be Swerve or someone,
sure, yeah. Yeah, that would have been cool too. It would have been fun to see somebody who we know hardcore is kind of a waster. Mm-hmm. Kind of fall into a position of authority. Swerve would have been hilarious.
Yeah. But Rung being a badass is pretty cool.
Rung is extremely cool in this. It's just what if your therapist was like a cool guy instead? But it does bring up to what we were talking about how how much Rodimus sucks in it. And I say that with all the love in my heart. When I tell you that Rodimus sucks in this volume, I say that with so much affection. But boy, Rodimus sucks in this volume. He's in such a bad mood.
Yeah, he is in an awful mood, and he is so single-minded right now. And you kind of forget, because there's kind of a gap, or at least there was for me, because I had to wait for the physical copies to arrive at my house.
Sure. Oh, that's right. You actually had a... Did you read it? Did you read it as it was releasing? No?
No. I started a year after it all wrapped up.
Okay.
But you can very easily forget that Getaway's mutiny happened for them a week ago.
Yeah, it's only been a couple of days.
It's still very fresh in his mind, and he, like, all he wants to do is get his ship back.
Right, he wants to get his ship back, and he wants to kick Getaway's ass, which is fair.
And to be pulled into this whole, not even just, like, another planet that needs help, a whole other timeline that he has no connection to or personal involvement with. Right.
No real stake in anything going on.
And now he has to deal with this. And yeah, so it's understandable, but it's still kind of fucked up.
It is extremely fucked up how off, like, and like, yeah, that's the whole point of like what's going on with his arc in Lost Light. It's, again, kind of a truncated arc because, like you said, they might have gotten less volumes than they anticipated. But, like, he's pissed, and he really mostly just wants to beat Getaway's ass. Like, ultimately, you gotta remember that, like, Getaway's whole, mutiny thing also ended in, like, Skids getting for real, like, killed. Mm-hmm. So it feels, at least, you know, for him, that this is just like a waste of, this isn't his problem. Like, right. there's no way they could even hope to stay and fix any of this. This is such a huge, like, massive universe spanning problem that, like, they can't stick around. But the problem is that it means he acts like a huge asshole to people in front of him who really need help. And that's not necessarily the Autobot way.
And once again, though, James Roberts to the rescue with just being brilliant at writing, like, a fully realized character. Mm-hmm. Because there's that one issue that ends with Rodimus and Rung, like, about to Irish box.
Yeah, like, they're gonna fight.
Like, they have their dukes up. Mm-hmm. And then the next issue opens with Rodimus going, "What am I doing?"
Yeah, like, he hits Rung. He lays his ass out. Because it's like, Rung is cool in this timeline.
Yeah.
But he's still Rung.
He's still Rung. Like, he's still very small, and he has no muscle on him.
He's just a little weedy, you know, psychiatrist at the end of the day. Like, what's he gonna do against, like, a guy who straight up just fought in the wars, did a lot of fighting in the wars, got killed by Megatron sort of in the wars.
The guy who just fought and beat the DJD.
The DJD, yeah. And then so, like, Rodimus lays him out and he goes like, "Oh, what the hell am I doing?" Because that's not a fair fight. God love Rung. Like, he's like, you gotta go through me, but he didn't think that one through.
And he's a freaking Autobot.
Right.
This isn't what it's so great. It didn't take, like, a big speech or, like, a lot of conflict between them. No. He just laid out some nerd and he's like, "Wait a minute. I'm being the bad guy right now.
I'm being the bad guy."
I'm the asshole. I see. You're right, guys. I'm the asshole right now.
I've been a huge asshole this whole volume. And it's actually kind of fun because it goes back to, like, at the very beginning of More Than Meets the Eye Season 2, where he's telling Megatron, like, "Hey, what is that symbol?" Or not him.
Skids is, yeah.
Skids is the one telling him, like, "Hey, what does that mean to you?" And it goes back to that, right? It's the same idea of, like, what is that, like, what does doing this mean to you? And it's like, oh, right. We're the good guys. We're supposed to help as much as we can, even if we can't necessarily fix everything. We can still help, you know?
Yeah, it is nice to be like, since IDW Phase 2 at least deals with a lot of gray on gray morality. Mm-hmm. It is great to see people who are just like, okay, if we're Autobots, we're the good guys.
Right. Like,
we have to remember that part.
Ideally, if you're an Autobot, you want to be a good guy. Now, there are a lot of people who are very bad at being good guy Autobots, like Getaway. We'll get to him.
Yeah.
But, you know, in your mind, if you're calling yourself an Autobot, you want to have a little voice in the back of your head reminding you, like, hey, we do good things. We help people, you know? Mm-hmm. But it's like, oh, Rodimus. he is stunningly shitty to Megatron, this entire volume. To me, that is when I'm just like, what's your problem, man? I mean, I know what your problem is. You have a lot of hang-ups right now, but you two are doing great. Like a couple days ago. I know you're mad, but...
He's super on edge, and the last thing he wants to see happen is someone trying to leave.
Right.
Again, you know, or like... And especially Megatron.
Right.
Out of all people.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't... It is kind of... It's almost like I don't want to say... Maybe childish is the right word. It's like a childish lashing out at the idea that somebody else is going to leave, so he's just acting even shittier. Like that would convince him to stick around. And it's like, no, he doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay. He literally calls them his conscience. Come on!
I do. There are a few bits about that I do love, where it's just like, for one thing, Minimus saying, like, I don't think you're trying to avoid your trial.
Right.
And, you know, and like, Megatron wants to help, but he has absolutely no intention of staying behind.
Right, but if it's like, you know, he did make the whole commitment to being an Autobot. So, if a problem is in front of you, then you try to fix it as much as you can on your way home. It's not that you have to stay forever.
Yeah, and
it's
so
that
that's...
Go ahead.
That's what they're trying to do, is he's, like, trying to be like, oh, we need to do as much as we can right before we gotta leave.
Like the very second before we gotta leave.
Like,
we should try to affect some kind of change.
You ever been at work, and it's like, you know your shift's about to end, and then some customer comes up to you and asks if you can help them with something, and you're like, I was walking to the punch card machine.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, I can help you.
I can do that for you. That's exactly that. They're just trying to get all their ducks in a row before they leave so they can go back to their timeline and feel good about themselves. And, you know, getting your ducks in a row means sometimes your psychiatrist fights a moon.
And so, and during all these arguments about we need to go, we don't have time for this, but we need to do as much as we can, you know, back and forth. Meanwhile, Rung has turned giant and is fighting the moon. God, if I could get one page from this series framed...
It'd be that one.
It would be Rung fighting the moon with "This machine kills fascists."
Yeah, oh, it's so good.
You know, I almost feel like James Roberts didn't use that at the right time.
You think?
I think, because that page doesn't show me a fascist; it shows me a giant moon.
It's a giant moon piloted by a bunch of fascists.
Right, so... but it's like, you know, if you just wanted to, like, show that page to someone, they wouldn't get it at first unless they knew who was inside it.
That's the point, though. That's the point, though. You show them that page and be like, why is the moon fascists? And it's like, I guess you gotta read more than meets the eye to find out. And then you've tricked them, and you've turned more people into maniacs who love robots that turn into Dodge Vipers.
But, like, have you ever, like, how excited do you think he was to get to name an issue that?
I know.
Like, how long has he been holding on to that?
No, right? I would be jumping out of my skin with excitement. And of course, listen, God love him, we all know that Rung is James Roberts' OC. That's his OC. That's his author insert character. It's fine. Which is interesting later.
Yeah.
Sit tight. You know, so of course I too would take the opportunity to make my insert character fight the moon with the caption, "This machine kills fascists." Like, yeah, I would do that. If someone said you could, I would take that opportunity without hesitation, for sure.
I wish this machine kill. I know what it's from originally, of course, obviously. I wish Hasbro had the nerve to co-opt it and put it on, like, Optimus.
I know, that would be cool, but they don't have those kind of cojones. You only get away with that kind of things in the comics, you know, right. Where, like, they're not paying that close attention.
I would fucking wear a shirt with Optimus on it with the graffiti of "This machine kills fascists." Yeah, not happening. Sorry. That would be too cool. I can see, because, like, that was my job. That is still my job, is to work at approvals. Absolutely not. No way. I can see the approvals form coming back with just a big fat red rejected on it, and it's giving me, like, nom flashbacks. But Rung punches the moon, it owns, and then he dies, basically. Yeah, he doesn't last very long.
He doesn't last very long, because if you haven't noticed, Rung is a skinny nerd who is not meant to fight the moon.
Fucking, this is another one thing, but fuck Terminus also. Because, like, you know, Megatron is, like, you know, he, like you said, he has said, like, you know, Terminus has said, like, you're not beholden to them, you're beholden to your conscience. And Megatron replies, "They are my conscience."
They are my conscience. He's trying to do good, specifically, like, for them at this point. Yeah. Because he wants, like, if he can do good, maybe that means he can stick around with them for a little bit longer, right? Like, it's not selfish at this point. Like, he's not trying to save his own skin. He just wants to hang out with these guys for a little bit longer, you know?
They are the ones who have shown him how to be a real Autobot.
Yeah, and how to be happy. I mean, it's, again, this is the happiest I have ever been. Like, and it's while hanging out with these dorks on a spaceship, just, like, you know, screwing around on Roddy's frat boy clown car.
And then, like, when Functionist Rung dies, and he's like, he's dead, and Terminus is like, well, there's nothing you can do now, so let's go. And it's like,
let's go.
What the fucking, come on, dude.
Come on, man. He just fought the moon. Can we take a moment to like soak that in?
It's one of the most frustrating things ever about this, because that wasn't Terminus's call to make. That it was not. He does not understand Megatron's situation.
Yeah, he doesn't get it anymore. And I mean, partly that's because like, they haven't really had the time. Like, he hasn't had it all thoroughly explained to him yet. Like, in his mind, and I get it, he is trying to save, like, his old friend, right? Like, the person who he respects the most. And he doesn't quite understand, like, maybe the breadth and depth of all of the wrong Megatron has done. But, like, man, when someone tells you they are my conscience, you don't get to make the decision to, like, split them up. You don't get to make that, even if you are trying to do the right thing for your friend, you don't get to make that decision to tear them apart for literally hundreds of years, as it turns out. Like, nearly 1,000 years. It's just so shitty. And it's like, on both ends, it's one of those things of like, Rodimus thinks that he just bailed on them, and Megatron thinks, like, oh, they left me behind. Like,
yeah, both of them
they gave up on.
Yeah, both of them are forced to think that the other left them behind.
Yeah, it's like, that's such a shitty thing to do to somebody who's ostensibly your friend, even if you are trying to help them. Like, man.
Now that does mean we do finally get, for, like, a first in Transformers history, the idea of Orion Pax and Megatron working together, like, for real, for real.
Yeah, except for the fact that we never fucking see
We never
him.
get to see it!
God damn it! I think that's one of, like, the things I'm the most bitter about, like, in the aftermath of this comic series.
Mm-hmm. But did you also notice that in that crowd of, like, Megatron giving the underground speech, Glitch is in there?
Uh-huh. Yeah, one of them is Glitch. It's like, oh, baby Tarn! You can actually do the right thing and not ruin this person. Oh. But, like, we literally never get to see Functionist Orion Pax. How could you never do this to me? You didn't even show him in a flashback. You had not even, like, a single shot of him, like, in a crowd or something. Nope, nothing. Like, how could you do this to me?
It sucks.
Megatron and Orion Pax hung out together for 819... No, probably not that long, because I think Pax got iced after a while. But for a couple 100 years, and you don't show me what he looks like, or even, like, a shot of them shaking hands, after we had this whole long conversation that made me feel a whole lot of feelings of like, young Orion Pax talking to future Megatron in season 2, and it's like, oh, it's one of those, like, I'll join you eventually lines. It's like, oh my god! It's so sad. It's a running theme.
Yeah. And meanwhile, back on Necro World, though, we gotta talk about James Roberts doing a reverse fridging again.
Yeah!
Again, he does this.
We're not killing the lesbians. Fuck you.
It was... And I think my favorite thing about this is that we'll get to it, because there's a third one, too. James Roberts daring us to question the convoluted mess of the way that he brings them back to life.
Just don't think about it, okay?
Just like, yeah, what are you gonna do? Complain that I brought them back?
Are you really gonna be that angry after I've made you love them in such a short period of time? Are you really gonna be mad that I brought one of them back?
He did a really, really good job of hiding the fact that no one actually directly interacts with Lug.
I know. I didn't even think about it. I thought, no, surely, like, does somebody talk to Lug, right? Right? But no, nobody talks to Lug. Up until, like, until you realize that it's very subtle. I mean, you just think, like, oh, because, I mean, like, Lug and Anode are a duo, so it kind of feels like if somebody is addressing Anode, then, of course, they're also addressing Lug, right?
Yeah.
No.
Like, Swerve's questions can be easily directed at two people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Anode answers them, and then Lug answers them on her own, and Anode provides a more direct answer. But, like, it's so easy to mistake that, like, Swerve never directly addresses her. It's great.
Right. It's good. And it's like, you think in your head, like at the very beginning of the volume, when we're introduced to the two of them, there was like a brief second where I was like, did Lug manage to grab her hand? Like, I thought about that, and then I went, it's fine, they're there. And then, nope, I was right. She didn't manage to get her hand in time. It's like, oh man, okay. Well, it's fine. We're gonna use bullshit sci-fi magic, basically, to bring Lug back. Are you gonna think about it too hard? No, fuck you. You want these nice lesbians around to make the cast more interesting. To mess with Swerve, mostly.
Yeah. To mess with Swerve and piss off Nautica. It's great.
It's fine. Reveal Nautica's inner cop.
And also, Whirl finally getting to fight his nemesis.
Now they have fought plenty of times before. Whirl has said that. But I do love the line where he's like, I've never actually beat him. And I love that Killmaster, okay. That he and Whirl actually do call each other their nemesis.
I know,
like,
it's
they
great.
Say the words. I love it. I think it's amazing. Of course, Whirl has like an actual cartoon villain nemesis.
So I'll be honest, this is probably not what I should have done, but that panel where Cyclonus steps into the room and he is basically split in half already.
Yeah.
I did laugh.
I did laugh too. No, it's fine because the next line is I think it's Swerve saying like, "You're here to help. You're already half decomposed." It's funny. It's fine. He's like I said, he's a sad gay samurai skeleton. You know, he's just really embracing the skeleton part of that descriptor. But he's still, I mean, like, he's still cool. He's Cyclonus. He can still fight, even missing an arm. It owns.
Also, the bit where Cyclonus, like, takes Tailgate to, like, the field of corpses. Mm-hmm. And Tailgate thinks it's like, oh, I get it. You're trying to make me feel like they were still people, too, and blah, blah, blah. But fuck that. They were trying to kill us.
They were trying to kill... Yeah, it goes back to the whole, like, we're no better than him if we ice Tyrest. It's like, no, fuck that. They were trying to kill us. I don't feel bad at all.
I love it. I love Tailgate getting an ego that his body literally can't... A check his body literally can't cash.
No, it's incredible. He's a tiny... The tiniest, angriest little mini-bot. Like... He's cool to fight anything, and he's rearing to go, baby. It's just... Can we stop separating the two of them, please?
Yeah, I know.
I'm just on a roller coaster here. I'm happy, and then I'm sad, and then I'm happy, and then I'm sad again.
Like, yeah, the issue between that and the next story arc after Megatron, is great because it punches you with that. With them basically breaking up.
They split up. They break up because, like...
Tailgate has a line where he's like, I'm not letting anyone manipulate me anymore. And that means anyone.
Can we just let the two of them stay together, please? I'm just so upset all of the time reading this. And the through line for this entire podcast series is that Sara is extremely invested in Cygate and would like for the sad skeleton to get his small angry boyfriend and ride off into the sunset together. It's a simple dream, okay? And they split up, and poor Cyclonus. I love the bit. Oh, man. Honestly, as compelling of a relationship in the entirety of More Than Meets the Eye / Lost Light is, like, the change between him and Whirl is just stellar. How we've finally gone from, like, actively trying to kill each other to when, like, Cyclonus is doing his thing. And it's like, you take a step back and they're not robots. It really is just like it's self-harm to like release like tension that he isn't allowing himself to actually speak. You know, so he does the thing where he claws his face again because he's so sad he doesn't really know another way to express it. And I just love that like Whirl's like, don't, like, he stops him.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so good.
Actively stops him. There's so many moments in all of Lost Light where it's like these two are just like friends. They're just friends. They adore each other. And it's like they've just it feels like incredibly natural. It's just been such a slow building process to get here from attempting to kill each other to Cyclonus fantasizing about killing him to like Whirl actively warning Cyclonus of bad things happening until we get to here where it's like, no, you know, you're my friend. I don't want you to, like, lash out at yourself like this because you and your boyfriend split up. Like, that's great, man. It's so satisfying to see us get here, to see us, like, finally culminate in this. Like, man. And we get more of it later, too.
We do, yes.
It's just the best. So we should probably move on.
One other thing I want to say about this issue, or a few things actually about the after Megatron issue. God, I love the whole exchange between Ultra Magnus and Rodimus.
Oh, the whole making him like decide on like a black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that the things that get me about it are the bit where Magnus reveals that Megatron read every report Magnus sent in.
Mm-hmm. And sent back comments.
And always responded with noted and with thanks.
Man.
He was just like, and he had to basically Rodimus gave the speech that the audience thought of Megatron as.
Right, yeah.
And Ultra Magnus gave the speech that is reality. where Rodimus is like, oh, he was still a nice guy, he just made a few mistakes.
Right.
And Magnus has to be like, made a few mistakes?
No, fuck that!
Like, are you joking?
Are you kidding me? No, he's still a monster, and he's evil, and I hate him. And I'm not bitter at all that I feel abandoned by somebody who I was considering a friend, even though that's exactly what's going on. God love him. And yeah, I do like that they're asking they're asking Rodimus, like, how did you know which version of the speech to give? And Rodimus is like, oh no, it's cool. I just had to make sure that, that I gave the speech that I would get the opposite reaction from Magnus, guaranteed, because Magnus always has to do the opposite of what I suggest. So, yeah, it's just, man, it's just horse shit when you think about, like, if you think about it, it's one of those One Piece things, right? Where, like, if you think about One Piece, you're like, wait a second, these people have only technically known each other for, like, 2 years.
Yeah.
And, like,
not even.
And, like, now and they would, like, die for each other now, exclusively.
Like someone, like, tracked the timeline, and, like, from the start of One Piece to Shabouti was, like, 2 months at most.
Yeah. So
like,
these people have barely know each other, and they are now, like, blood brothers and sisters. And so, like the time, and so, like, getting to it, the time skip in One Piece is longer than any of these people have known each other, but no, they're all wanting to get back to each other. Yeah. And that's the same thing here. Megatron was with the Lost Light for a year. 1 year. And it's like, no,
and half of that year, he hated it. Because he says, like, 6 months into this journey, and all we've done is goof off and do stupid things, and I'm convinced
and
this is some kind of...
the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm convinced this is some kind of elaborate punishment thought up by Prime. So, like, for 6 months, he actually enjoyed it. And it's like, no, that was the best time of his life. And then he spends 819 years stuck doing more revolutionary work. We'll talk about...
Yeah, but we do, we get Cyclonus and Tailgate breaking up, which sucks, and I hate it. Then we get Fangry being the fucking worst.
Fucking worst. What? Did they think they were being cute by having the end at the end of that chapter have a little exclamation part?
The pretty little cursive "the end"
with an exclamation mark and flowers. I'm like, do you think you're being funny?
Like, honestly, like, did you even think that Tailgate was really dead?
No, not for a fucking second. That's why they did it, of course.
I felt more bad about Kaput dying.
I did too. It's like, come on.
Because, for one thing, I think Kaput is a great name for a doctor.
Yeah, this is Dr. Kaput. He's here to do your heart surgery. Like, can I get a different one?
You've got Ratchet, which is a tool that, is used for mechanical work. You've got First Aid, Red Alert, like Ambulon.
Pharma, even. Pharma is a normal doctor name.
And Kaput.
How do you feel about Dr. Kaput working on you? Not so good, actually, thanks. I would rather not.
But yeah, there are a lot of great moments in that, and then that leads to the lug and anode power hour with an axe to break the ice.
It's another one of those like we said at the beginning of the episode. There's a lot going on in the lug and anode power hour for just being like the girls goofing off. You know what I mean? There's a lot of plot stuff being set up, and you're like, you're thinking like, what is this setting up to pay off? Like, where is this going, James Roberts?
Besides ripping my heart in half, where is this going?
Oh, kids.
But we have to first, acknowledge it. James Roberts says trans rights.
Roberts says trans rights.
And just drops a manifesto in the middle of his chapter.
Yeah, it owns.
Great. I love it.
Yeah. Just straight up being like, you know what? No, that I heard it, and that's what felt right, and I wanted to go with it, and you're gonna deal with it, and it owns. And
it's like, that's just how it be in real life sometimes.
Yeah.
Where you just you feel like a weird way and you don't quite get it, but then you like see it for yourself and you're like, oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah, that tracks for me.
It's great. It's incredible. It's so just like, it is probably the best way you could, like, if given the executive direction to like not fool with lady Transformers, the coolest possible way you could introduce the concept of female Transformers. Be like, well, if you're really gonna be like that about the whole species being male, then I guess lady Transformers are all trans. Sucker. It owns. It's the coolest.
And it's just like, Cyclonus and Tailgate and Rewind and Chrome Dome just explicitly being male characters in a romantic relationship together. Lug and Anode just being trans and in a relationship together.
Yeah, and being and not couching it in like cutesy terms or trying to kind of like brush it under the rug or just, like they put it directly on screen and they say it extremely obviously. Like there's no getting around it. Like these are a pair of trans lesbians who are in love. Die mad about it.
Yeah. Like, and the only reason that, because, like, usually it would be like, oh, well, you would make the character like an alien or like a magic being to, like, make it more, quote, palatable.
Right.
But the only reason they're aliens in this one is because the whole comic is about aliens.
Yeah, exactly. There's no getting around it. It kicks ass.
Yeah, it's great. And then, it's very nice and lovely to see in a mainstream comic book.
Yeah, it's great. It's so, again, a thing I keep saying is I'm routinely just caught off guard by how, just how casual it is. I'm just so unused to it. I'm not used to having it being treated as the status quo, like it's the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah.
And nobody questions it, and anybody who does make a big stink out of it is instantly portrayed as a huge asshole. Yeah, it's nice.
Or like adapts to it super quickly.
The one thing in More Than Meets the Eye 2, or Season 2, is when Skids accidentally misgenders Nautica, and she just was like, nope, she, and he goes, oh right, sorry, she.
Yeah.
And then they move on with it.
It's the bit where they find alternate rewind, and he's like going down the list of things that have changed, and they're like, oh yeah, so except for she being a she and Megatron being an Autobot, it is business as usual.
It's like, okay, cool, and everybody moves on with it. It is, like I said, the coolest way to introduce female characters to your previously all-male continuity. I love it. I think it's extremely ballsy and super fun. And, yeah, I love Lug and Anode. Like, I just love everything about them. I think they're utterly charming characters. It's nice to have a pair of just of chaotic idiots running around, causing trouble, stealing things, and setting up plot for later.
Yeah.
There are parts in there that I'm like, what is going on? You know? Like, because there's such an information dump in the Lug and Anode Power Hour. Of just, like, the Grand Architect and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And I'm like, what?
Where is all this going?
Yeah, what is this leading to? My dude.
And he hides it really well because, like, your eyes are going to glaze over the first time you read it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to be more drawn to the Nautica and Velocity plotline because those are characters you know and you can wrap your head around the things they're doing.
Oh, poor Nautica, baby. I know.
God, that
I'm so
was...
sorry. I'm sorry your boyfriend got. It's so rough.
I just, like... That hurt me a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's sad. It's just like... And it really doesn't... I mean... So this kind of goes back to a thing we were talking about in talking about season 2, where it's the idea that, like, the bad things that happen to you shape you into who you are. And, like, this is one of them, but that doesn't make it hurt any less.
Right? But it's like, it would be one thing if she had forgotten about Skids, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, entirely.
But no, it takes away your attachment to a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
so
takes away that fondness.
She has all of her memories of hanging out with Skids, and really... That line about, like, you know, he was a good guy, but now I'm wondering why I'm even bothered coming here in the first place.
Oh. So, it's just miserable. It's misery.
It is.
And it pays off later, like, pays off in a huge way, and it kind of saves the day, which is wild. Like, and
I wish it didn't have to.
I wish it didn't have to, but ultimately it is what saves the day. But man, in the moment when I'm still, especially because, like, I basically jumped into Lost Light immediately after season 2.
So that wound was still fresh.
Oh, that wound was so fresh. I'm still sad about Skids. I might die sad about Skids. I might die mad about Skids too, now that I think about it. So it was still super fresh, and it was just like, man, at this point... Poor Skids. Like, poor Skids. And he shows up a couple times in flashbacks in Lost Light, and it's just like... Skids was so unequivocally like a good guy. Like, he just had a heart of gold, and you know, kind of a naive worldview that is what ultimately undid him in such a major way. And then it's like, man... To have that happen to him, and, like, to do that to himself for the sake of, like, saving everybody, and then he just gets, like, not even forgotten, but, like, that attachment to him just gets removed. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
It's just so hard, and I get it. I mean, that's the point. It's supposed to be, but man, that's a bitter pill to swallow sometimes, you know? But... It saves the day. The bad things that happen to you shape you into who you are. And so it's so okay.
So now we do move on to some real plot and some real fucked up shit.
Oh god, let's do it.
Next is the Mutineers trilogy.
Oh god, everything going on. I hate Getaway. That's my fuck Getaway. Very important. That's the actual theme of this entire podcast series is fuck Getaway. That being said, I do think Getaway is super interesting, and I think all of the parallels going on between him and Rodimus are even more interesting. There is no character more suited to be Rodimus's rival character.
It's it's one of the interesting things about this during a reread is I've seen some complaints online about how Getaway just kind of slipped more and more into being evil as time went on.
But I mean, like...
But
Slipped? I don't know about that, man. I feel like he was always kind of an asshole.
I don't really feel that, like, he just, like, he went from, like, being a morally gray, manipulative person to just becoming flat evil. Mm-hmm. What happened is that he's not a leader.
No, he's not.
He's a terrible leader, and because of that, he just kept having to dig himself into a deeper and deeper hole.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And compromise more and more about himself. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that, like, James Roberts just made him be evil. Mm-hmm. It's that he had to keep doing horrible things to maintain control over the crew because he's not good at actually leading them.
No, exactly. Like, it's a kind of a throwaway line when he's having his conversation with Freud, but at one point he says, the thing about lying is that the more you do it, the easier it gets, right? Mm-hmm. Which is pretty telling. Like, that's a pretty telling little character moment of, like, somebody who, as he lies more and more, kind of loses control of the situation, so he has to keep doing more and more drastic things to maintain control until the point is that he's kind of cracked. And, like, to a degree, I have to kind of, maybe it's because of my own personal attachment to the characters affected, but I don't know, Getaway just kind of always seemed like a huge asshole to me. He from the gate was trying to do actual grooming shit to Tailgate by inundating himself in that social circle with all of his corny bump bullshit.
The first sign that you get that, like, he's definitely not jiving with the crew is during Dark Cybertron.
Yeah. Where
he sees the Rod Pod for the first time and is like, you let this guy be in charge?
Yeah, he's like that from the beginning. There is no, like... It's not like his character made a dramatic turn. It's that he just went downhill more and more. It's negative development. Characters sometimes undergo that. I know that's crazy, but sometimes characters just have negative character development.
Now, I will say that the one bit that is probably a bit too on the nose is when he had Getaway say fake news. I think that's just a little bit...
That was a little too... It's a little too much. Like, James Roberts, get off Twitter. I know you're on Twitter, buddy. I follow you.
Like, I get it. I do. I just think that's pushing the line just a little bit over.
You could have showed a little bit more restraint, my man. Oh, my God.
But no, one of the things, like, that indicates to me that, like, he's definitely not leader material is when, after they get Team Rodimus off the ship, and they're just kind of standing around now, and then Atomizer's like, so, I think it's Atomizer, maybe someone different, but they're like, so I guess I'm second in command?
Right.
And it's just like, he didn't have anything planned besides him being in charge.
Yeah, he has no plans beyond himself getting in charge, and he has no plans beyond getting rid of Rodimus and then finding, it's step 1, get rid of Rodimus. Step 2, find Cyber Utopia. Question mark, profit. Like, that's literally what's going on inside of his head.
Yeah. Like when they get a distress signal from something, and he's like, all right, tell him we can't help. And they're like, all right, setting a course for, wait, what do you mean can't help?
Yeah, do you not understand what Autobots, like, do? It goes back to the whole, again, hey, they're drawing lines of comparison between him and Rodimus, because Getaway is the ideal rival character for Rodimus, where it's like, do you forget, like, what Autobots do? Like, you forget, like, the journey is just a pretense. Like, nobody actually cares about finding Cyber Utopia. Nobody cares about finding the Knights of Cybertron.
We had a whole issue about how actually no one really cares about that.
Nobody thinks about it at all.
Several, Swerve flat out says, I hope for more wild, rambling diversions.
Yeah.
And Tailgate, talks about how, like, who knows what's around the corner. It could be anything. Mm-hmm. none of them actually really care. You know, like, even Drift, the most spiritual of them, says, like, I think we're the Knights of Cybertron.
Yeah, because again, like everyone else, Drift just wants to hang out. Like, Drift just wants to screw around in space with his best friend and his doctor boyfriend. Like, that's it. And so there is, you know, the point of the trip is answering those distress calls, right? Like, that is the actual point of doing this. It's not finding cyber utopia or becoming a prime or any shit like that. It is just, like, get out there, do some good, screw around in space because nobody wants to deal with how shitty our lives were back on Cybertron, right? Like, that's it. That's it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, yeah, it's another sign that, like, Getaway doesn't know what he's doing. Getaway is not a good leader. Getaway doesn't understand, like, the motivating factor of his entire crew. Because, like, yeah, the people who Getaway kicked out were people who were on, like, Megatron's side. And like we said, if it was all about just Megatron, they would have just gotten rid of Megatron. They could have pulled it off. But it was not, of course.
There's so many different lies to different people going on too that it's almost it is hard to keep track of, because I have actually seen people complain about how, like, the crew, you know, abandoned Rodimus or whatever, or you know, they hold responsibility for it. No, they don't, because Getaway asked them one question: if we staged a mutiny to get Megatron off the ship, would you help? Yeah. Like, that's the sticking point, is that it's just Megatron. And then the lie he tells the rest of the crew when he kicks, like, you know, the Team Rodimus off of the Lost Light is that those people were too aligned with Megatron to take him being kicked off. Like, yeah, like, and they bailed on the Lost Light. Right. Because he has that line where he's like, a Rodimus sulk can last for months. Right, yeah, exactly. And he's just playing it off as Rodimus sulking for getting mutinied. And then you get Rodimus and his I want that twink obliterated speech. The greatest... Hold on. There are so many good points in this thing. It is so funny. Because, again, it owns how mad he is. Like, he's so grouchy. So at one point... Rodimus makes mention of converting his body into a gun, and to sell his innermost energon, because it's Matrix infused, so it's worth more. Sell it to a specific bounty hunter with a cool name and a cool way of speaking to kill Getaway with the Rodimus gun. With the Rodimus Path Blaster. That mercenary is a character from the Marvel UK comics. Yes, James Roberts. Who is technically owned by Marvel, which is why he never appeared in the IDW 1 comics. Okay. His name is Death's Head. And he's one of those characters that has crossed over with, who was a Transformers character that eventually transplanted to regular Marvel. Right. Wait, Death's Head? Yes. I've heard that name. Lockdown and Animated is based heavily on Death's Head. That's awesome. Oh, so good. Good to know. So they can't actually call him Death's Head, but Rodimus can describe a character that looks and sounds exactly like him. He wants that twink obliterated, yeah. Now, ideally, the Path Blaster would be in my colors, but the main thing is knowing that Getaway dies, knowing that I was personally responsible for the lack of his head. It's great. It's great. I love it. So mad. Another point that is hilarious, but also in super, super, super fucking dark. I might have told you about this. I don't know, but I want to say it on air as well. Sure. So there is the bit where Getaway convinces coerces Atomizer into taking responsibility. Yeah, killing by having him kill one of the Protectobots. And he kills Rook. Right. So the thing about that, his choice there, is because when the rest of the Protectobots wake up, they talk about how they wish they had gotten more time to know Rook. Yeah. In the Combiner Wars story arc back in X-Rid and Windblade, where, you know, the main stuff is happening. The premise of Combiner Wars is they find the ability to combine, and so they're just making combiners, and they end up fighting each other because they want, you know, who has the... It's a nuclear arms race, but with 5 robots who can combine into one bigger robot.
Right.
Because First Aid and company were escorting Mirage to Cybertron, they called themselves, as a joke, the Protectobots.
Okay.
These guys don't really have anything in common besides being primarily medical robots, and they were selected to escort Mirage.
Sure.
So Starscream looks at them while they're just kind of like, hey, are we interrupting anything while this is going on? And it's like, hey, you guys work together well, right? And they're like, I don't know, I guess, maybe. And they're like, you guys know who each other are, right? Yeah, sort of. And just blasts them with the Combiner Ray. So, the thing is,
Thank you for telling me this about Starscream, by the way. I have come around on this character so much.
The thing is, they were technically down a bot to form a full combiner with the numbers they had.
Uh-huh.
Just so happens that who walked into the room but some random civilian named Rook.
Oh, no!
The TM Wiki has the great caption of that, of the scene where it happens, where the caption is, hey guys, I'm Rook, what's going on in here?
Oh, no! And then he gets owned.
So he's just some dude who got pulled into forming Defensor.
Oh no.
He doesn't know what's going on, but now he's stuck with them because he's one of the key components of Defensor.
Oh my god. Oh no.
And so he just gets killed unceremoniously later.
Oh my god, that's horrible. It is extremely fucking dark, but also very funny. I'm so sorry, dude.
Also, one of the weird things about Combiner Wars and about Defensor specifically is that, due to a mishap with reference material...
Oh no.
A bunch of the wrong robots were drawn in the crowd shots of the Protectobots.
Yay!
And so for a while it's like, wait, who is on that team? What is going on? It all got fixed in like the trades, like they redrew the pages so it's accurate, but it's just like, wait, that's not Groove and Streetwise. What?
That's amazing. Thank you. It's
great. It's Defensor is like this gigantic mess, and I love it.
I love it. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
But yeah, so they kill Rook, and then they just slap Ambulon's dead body in there instead, which I have to think is kind of weird because like the idea in IDW at least is that combiners form like a mental council that require like a unanimous vote to take actions and whatnot. You know, all their minds are linked together and they discuss their options and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how that quite works if one of them is dead.
I think it's just that leg don't work as good.
I'm going to assume what it is that it's basically just the peg leg.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It just doesn't quite work as well. So maybe you're a little hobbled, but you get around well enough. You just need the leg. It doesn't need to work great.
Yeah, I do like Ambulon, just as a quick side note, because they talk about how like Ambulon was part of a group that tried to form a makeshift combiner. Mm-hmm. But since they don't actually do the proper combination sequence, they just converted their alt modes to limbs.
That's neat.
So I wonder how that would have actually worked had it been successful.
Yeah. But then what else? It's very dense. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in the Plotters Club.
Sunder and Freud are here. Did you forget about them?
Yeah, they just got to come back, I guess.
They get to come back because Getaway needs what Sunder can do.
Getaway pulls off probably the dumbest move in anything ever, which is try to drown the guy that turns into a boat.
Yeah. I guess, he does say he hits him with the nudge gun to make him forget his alt mode, but, it's literally that Riptide is too dumb.
But, you also could have just shot him.
You could have just shot him. You could have just shot him and thrown him in that way. But I guess you want to do your stupid evil villain fucking horse shit because you're Getaway and you suck and I hate you. We don't like Getaway in this family. Unfortunately, the thing is that anytime I see anyone trying to make justifications for it, which is weird because I love Megatron, but whatever. Mm-hmm. I like one of them and I don't like the other one. In fact, I hope the one I like kills more people. I'm no, you don't understand. Getaway is not charming in his badness. He just sucks. It's very important that your shitty character that does shitty things be charming in their shittiness, or you get a Getaway.
It is really, really, that issue with the Protectobots and, finding out they're trapped in, a mental time loop.
I love that so much because they play it, super straight. They don't call any attention to it. They don't make, it's not a big stinger thing or nothing.
Yeah!
They just end it hard, hard end it when you, and just straight up reuse the same pages. To be nope, they are stuck. And then they end it hard. And it's oh, fuck.
That's beautiful. It's great.
It's great. Genius storytelling.
Also, it is really, really legitimate fucking chilling when Getaway, disassembles Atomizer.
Oh, yeah.
And calls Freud to be hey, you need to remind everyone of the time that Thunderclash killed Atomizer.
It's a downward spiral. It's negative character development, folks. He's getting significantly worse as he goes, because he's just trying to maintain control.
I don't know if this means anything, but apparently James Roberts has said that Getaway is supposed to have a New Zealand accent.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
But next is probably one of the weirdest issues in Lost Light. Sardines. And it feels weird because it's tonally all over the place.
Which one is this?
That's the one where they are on Skip.
Oh yeah, that is a weird one, isn't it?
It just jumps all over in terms of tone.
It's a mess, and I think that's the point.
Yeah, because you can't, there are no rooms for other characters to go into.
Right.
To have their moment. It all has to happen in real time. But you get, Swerve and Lug and Anode having their prank war. Well, I guess Swerve and Anode, and Lug is, dragged along with it.
Yeah.
While within, the same page, you get Rodimus dealing with Tailgate's quote-unquote death. And having to tell Cyclonus.
Right. And it's, it is, I think, meant to feel kind of chaotic and more importantly, feeling like they're just totally out of control. It's more of the whole, I guess maybe kind of a parallel to what was going on with Getaway, because we're doing themes here, folks. We're drawing parallels between Roddy and Getaway, where it's as things worsen, the amount of chaos in your system also worsens, so everything is kind of piling on to each other and getting worse and worse. And there's no room, and there's literally no room to breathe. That's a whole idea, that there's no chance to even breathe or get any kind of personal moment.
Did you see the one splash page of the crowd where Whirl is laying on the floor with his legs and arms outstretched?
Yeah.
and Rung is in his alt mode underneath the stairs.
Yeah, just trying to get some space. and you know, it's only getting worse because the ship starts shrinking. And like,
there's so
it's
many.
funny that this is the volume that Milna comes back to draw, by the way. So like this whole, like all of Lost Light, except for a handful of, you know, guest artists, is done by Jack Lawrence. And for the then of course, like you have your standard Sakamoto comes back for like the Lug and Anode Power Hour, and then Milna comes back for this, which is a strange volume for him to come back for, but that's cool. I am always happy to see his character designs return. I think they are vastly superior, but that's neither here nor there.
I think Jack Lawrence has the kindliest robots I've ever seen. God, everyone just looks so happy when they smile.
That's exactly. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's why they did the artist switch, or probably because Milna was otherwise occupied. But like, yeah, although I do think Milna does, or Jack Lawrence does, like the best smiles. Everybody's so happy. But like all the other goofy facial expressions, Alex Milna is just a king. They are fucking funny in this entire issue of all the goofy shit they're doing.
I think constantly about Swerve basically chewing on all of his knuckles, trying not to talk.
Yes! It's so funny! Or like Anode's really smug expression at one point when she finds out Swerve is sleeping.
Yeah. The bit where Velocity tells Anode, "You have a head in your butt." And she has her forehead on the wall and is audibly saying groan.
It's so good. Oh, it's so funny. And like, but maybe it's just because I am me. I just prefer the really pointy Rodimus design, but that's neither here nor there right now.
But like, and like, speaking of him and facial expressions, when he gets the call from Fort Max,
good. Oh shit, it sucks so much.
And he
it
just
hurts
like
so bad. It hurts.
He looks so
bad.
resigned, doesn't he?
And he's just, because it's like, man, everything has gone so bad, and it just keeps getting worse. Like it's not getting any better, man.
You know what I do like? There is one line that like I always thought was very, very nice. It's when they are investigating the coffin, and some of Fort Max's team is messing around with the Necrobot's cape, and you know, an important plot thing happens. But like, Fort Max says like, "Can this wait? Tailgate is a friend."
Oh, that's so, yeah, it's really good.
It's like he hasn't been on the ship for a while. Like at least a year.
Yeah, at least a year, but he still like thinks of everybody as a friend, even though it's a pretty rough part of his life.
Thinking back, I can't really remember Fort Max and Tailgate interacting a lot.
Yeah, but you know.
but that's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
Is that they don't have to.
Yeah, you just, because you get just, I mean, like, if you were on the Lost Light, then, like, ideally you just kind of bonded with everyone over the course of being like, on the ship.
You know, it harkens back to what, you know, Skid's talked about, where he's like, well, I guess if you're on, you don't see it.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're here for 5 minutes. All right, guess we'll all bleed and die for each other.
Yeah, we are all now best friends forever. And yeah, but like Rodimus's expressions are so good. And then we talked about it earlier, but we gotta really talk about it now. After he has to break the news to Cyclonus, and you know, Whirl goes and finds him, and he just, the 2-panel shot of him just dropping his head on Whirl's shoulder is so good. It's so fucking good. It's like, it's great. Because it's like, man, we truly have come so fucking far between these two. And this is like the culmination of all of it, where it's like, hey, they're totally willing and totally open in sharing in each other's pain and wanting to comfort each other. And
it's
like,
beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's just that trio of characters is so good and so fleshed out and just like becomes such a good little group, and I love it. And it keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better too. We didn't even talk about in the first volume where Whirl even kind of tells Tailgate like the whole, like, hey, there's a story I want to tell you and it's about love. And Tailgate's like, oh, does it have a happy ending? And Whirl says like, it rarely does. It's like, oh yeah. Man. Just so many little moments like that. That's the whole thing is that like if we could talk about every single little moment that's
we could talk about every fucking panel in this goddamn comic book because it's all brilliant.
We would be here for 8 hours per issue, but we could do it.
Whirl becoming so invested in their relationship.
Yeah, like wanting them to be happy because like he has come to like Cyclonus and Tailgate so much.
And he's not even the kind of guy who cares. He even says like, I don't care about romance for myself. I don't, the only person in my universe is me. Mm-hmm. But he thinks they're being stupid by not like just telling each other how they feel.
Yeah, like so many of their problems would just be solved if they could just say how they feel and then commit to sticking together, which is apparently extremely hard. But like he just likes both of them so much as people or robots, I guess, that he wants to see they're his friends. He wants to see his friends be happy and end up together. For like their sake, because their happiness would also give him happiness, which is a thing that he really needs.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing he needs a win, and so he's trying very hard to kind of fix that because it would make him happy. Like, that's a lot to unpack in just 2 panels.
Right, but like
letting Cyclonus drop his head on his shoulder like that.
You've never seen Whirl actually be sympathetic and caring about someone like that, where he just set like where Chrome Dome is prepared for a fight against Cyclonus after he accidentally nearly cuts Rewind in half.
Right.
And Whirl of all people is like, don't.
Yeah. Like, he's the one who has to break the fight up and intervene and, act as like somebody to comfort his friend. Like, man, whatever.
And then while they're trying to, like, deal with that...
process this.
Fucking Ratchet depigments and starts phasing through the floor.
And then the ship starts shrinking.
And 10 starts talking.
And it all starts going extremely wrong in every possible way. And there's just a lot of chaos.
Anyway, let's check in on the Scavengers.
Yay! Nickel's there now, too.
Yeah, I love it. Literally what happened is Nickel got thrown through a portal and she's stuck with the Scavengers.
Forever. She's, like, stuck with them for life now.
I love the panel where it's, like, the Scavengers are doing an emergency huddle. Mm-hmm. And the panel is from her perspective. And one of them is a flashback to the DJD, in their, like, group huddle or whatever. And then it cuts back to the present where she's just looking at these busted losers who don't have anything to their name besides Grimlock, who is completely mentally gone.
Yeah. However, I do have to make a complaint. I don't think it's Jack Lawrence who does the art for this volume. It's definitely not Alex Milne because he's drawn Nickel before. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, I don't know which one of you did the art for this volume, but whoever among you gave Nickel those awful lips Meet me in a parking lot. I'm gonna beat your ass. That
They
sucks.
are... I know exactly what you're talking about. They are really weird.
I'm going to kick the living shit out of you. Like, why? Who? Aren't there people who, like, look at the art and go, I don't know about this. Don't you have, like, an art director who sometimes says, like, this seems like a bad idea? You know?
There is one thing I do like about that, though, about her in this issue, though, which is, remember back when she first appeared in More Than Meets the Eye, and
Yes.
there's a bit where Tarn and someone else were talking about how, like, she gets angry when, you know, they're on the field because she worries, and she starts off screen, starts making rude gestures at them, and they're
Yes.
narrating it.
Uh-huh.
In this issue, when Grimlock doesn't respond to her, she raises 3 fingers at him on both hands.
Yeah.
As if that's the obscene gesture.
Yeah, she's making rude Cybertronian gestures. It's fine.
Great. I love it.
She's doing her version of she's doing the robot version of flipping somebody the bird. She's just a small, rude robot doctor who has to now put up with these idiots. Oh God.
And it's great because, like, this is the issue where you get that scene where Nickel is like, yeah, back when Grimlock defected from the Decepticons, this is the only time Megatron moved someone up the list. And it's like, what? Excuse me?
How do you know that? It's like, oh,
Go-
it's in the DJD.
But also, like, what do you mean Grimlock used to be a Decepticon?
That's true. Oh, right. That's right.
Do you want to explain that in depth, maybe?
Can we get?
No, we're already moving on. That seemed important.
Can we please get a flashback? Can somebody explain to me what's going on? No.
And
Okay.
They get to the planet where, like, they get attracted by tree robots and, like, we've dealt with this before. No, we found a wooden robot. This is hardly the same thing. Just the total downgrade in quality of companions that Nickel has now is great.
I know. We've gone from, like, the DJD, who are, like, ruthless and efficient and knew what they were doing at all times. And they had this extremely firm leader who kept them on task. And now she's stuck with the scavengers. I do want you to know that you have utterly poisoned my brain, however, because when I was reading, like, doing the skim through, and one of them said no more scavenging, like, we're doing no more scavenging. All I could read in my head was no more scavenging.
Yep, me too. I can't read that word correctly anymore.
It's killed me.
And that's the bit where she calls Deathosaurus and she's like, they call themselves the Scavengers, but they say it differently every time. I think it's a joke.
Oh God. It's amazing. This is also another volume where it's like there's a lot of plot.
A lot of things are happening.
There's a magnificence now, and I don't know what that is.
I really wish they had gone a bit more in depth on some of these things.
Yeah.
Because there's a part where Scorponok reveals that he is pregnant.
Yeah, Scorponok is having a baby. I do like how they go, it's a baby, it's disgusting, it's purple.
And it's got a weird Decepticon brand tattoo on its face.
And, okay. That's, and then they never, because, like, we were talking about this on Twitter, but, like, IDW1 ended, like, pretty soon after this.
So this didn't get a chance to, like, go anywhere. It's just, and the weird thing about it is that we learn later that Scorponok's baby is not part of the Guiding Hand's plans. It has nothing, it's just something he was doing on the side.
It's because Scorponok is a weirdo. That's what it's supposed to establish, is that Scorponok is just a freak, I think. And to that degree, they succeeded wildly because why would you make that? Don't you understand the whole point is that you're robots? Why would you make a people bot?
Also, the bit where they finally get Grimlock's mind back and
yes,
they have to disassemble themselves so they can look like Grimlock just killed them.
Yeah.
because Sinister doesn't notice that his arm is missing. They're like, oh, Sinister can rewire his brain module. And Nickel's like, really? With one arm? Sinister's like, oh yeah, that's how my balance is off.
Oh my god.
I love it. I love these guys so much.
One of my favorite little bits is when, they're trying to convince him, like, hey, we're still on your side. And he just does, like, a little love chomp.
Yeah.
I love this dinosaur robot.
And this is like the definitive like difference between the DJD and the Scavengers is when Scorponok reveals his master plan and he like extends his hand to have them join him and like fight for the Decepticon cause.
Yes.
They're like, see, the thing is,
we realized the war kind of sucked.
We're glad we don't have to fight anymore.
We actually didn't enjoy the war. They said, what is it? Being a Decepticon is great as long as you don't have to fight anybody.
Yeah. We're just trying to get by, man. We don't really want to do that anymore.
They just wanna be Decepticons and make some scratch and like hang out with their dinosaur friend. Is that so much to ask?
Also, how fucking raw is it that Tarn recorded a revenge voicemail?
Yes! Oh, you little freak. I'm so glad, though. Because it is exactly what he would do, right? Like, that's the most Tarn move ever. In the event that he finally gets got, he recorded a revenge voicemail to kill basically anybody, because he can kill people with his voice. It rules.
It's great. And then, there's two other great lines in this one. Mm-hmm. The one where they do another emergency huddle and Croc has to beckon Nickel in, and he's like, "Don't you're one of us now forever. Don't worry, as far as merits go, it's demotion proof."
Yeah, exactly. You can't go any lower.
And then, while they're doing their emergency huddle, they'll be like, "Okay, well, how are we going to stand and fight to protect this weird little organic baby that I guess we just adopted now and is ours?"
We just have a baby now.
And then Grimlock makes the choice for them by just shoving them all through the portal.
He goes by and just shoves them right through.
And it's just like, and God, oh, I love it. I love it. He's so great with that line where he's like, "Don't worry, kid, I'll take care of you. I had some guys taking care of me and they did a pretty good job of it."
I know.
Oh.
He's a good Dinobot. We love this giant man with a sword.
I don't think you read it, but there was a bonus issue of More Than Meets the Eye that took place during the Revolution story arc, which was like the big Hasbro crossover, where like they revealed that Transformers is in the same universe as Rom the Space Knight and G.I. Joe and Mask and every other Hasbro property they have.
Sure.
The More Than Meets the Eye issue was about the Scavengers going to Earth to track down Grimlock's sword.
Oh, cool. Yeah, they did like very briefly mention Earth. I was wondering what that was about. Okay.
And he wanted the sword because carved into the hilt are the names of the other Dinobots.
Oh, baby. He's a good boy. He's a good dinosaur. We love him. I love all versions. It's really hard to fuck up a Grimlock, I'm realizing. Like,
oh yeah, you just need him to be big and loud and fight things real good.
Like, that's it. Like, I think, we've been talking, like, which iteration of Grimlock do we vibe with the most? Like, the me Grimlock or, like, the cool, like, Conan the Barbarian character? I think ultimately the answer is all of the above. Mm-hmm. Like, as long as he's a dinosaur and he's loud and, like you said, he fight thing good, you really can't fuck up a Grimlock. You gotta try really hard, So
I watched a few more episodes of Cyberverse recently.
Sure.
And I got to the Grimlock episode. Their Grimlock is me, Grimlock, in dinosaur mode. In robot mode, he is a loud, boisterous Brian Blessed Knight.
Yes! Oh
like,
my god. Oh my god, yes.
Tally-ho, onward, brave fellow companions type.
Oh my god, yes. Oh, I love it. Perfect. That's it. That's how you do it. That's how you get to have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
So you can have both dumb me Grimlock and cool Knight Grimlock. You did it. You
great.
found the perfect combination of the boy.
So we leave the Scavengers back on Garrus 6 or Garrus 9.
Yes,
sorry, Garrus 9. Grimlock facing impossible odds.
Sure.
So let's get back to the everlasting voices. Hey, everyone's dead.
I've never been more confused in my entire life than when I got to it and they're like, hey, everyone's dead. I'm like,
so
excuse me?
The thing about this story arc and what makes it good, is, of course, when these characters learn that they have died, of course their reaction is to mill around and wait for something to happen.
Yeah, the most Lost Light crew response ever is to find out A, that they're dead, and B, they're in the afterlife, and they just kind of fuck around and goof off.
They just go, wait. So, I mean, obviously, one of the best things ever is Cyclonus flies off to find Tailgate.
Yeah, of course, because if this is the afterlife, he's gonna go find his boyfriend and make his peace, and they're finally going to get together. God almighty, thank you.
But most of them are just kind of like, wait, so this is it? This is the afterlife? We just made it? We're just here now? This is it? I kind of expected more to happen.
And there, you get, who is it that shows up and explains? Oh god, there's so many fucking characters. You can't expect me to remember.
Pipes shows up.
Yeah, Pipes is there.
It's just they aren't Lost Light members, but they're just people from their history.
Sure, yeah. And they show up and explain no, it's cool. This isn't the actual. It's like the waiting room to get into heaven, basically.
Yeah.
And once you're ready to go to heaven, you you move on. But in the meantime, this is here to keep you from losing it.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself is kind of like that ancient 4chan edit that says he's fighting Nazis in heaven now, right?
Yeah. Cat, why the fuck are there Nazis in heaven?
Why the fuck are there Nazis in heaven? It's that's your first signal that something's kind of weird. I mean, other than the fact that they cannot possibly be dead, but also if it's heaven, why would that make them insane? I don't understand.
So Cyclonus flies off to find Tailgate.
Sure.
Most of them just kind of stand around and wait for things to happen and try to remember what happened to them before.
Sure.
And Anode goes to steal things.
Anode goes to steal shit.
I love her.
Because allegedly, they say you can't take it with you, but she's here to test that hypothesis, baby. So good for her. They goof off, and obviously Nautica and Brainstorm are this seems weird. Let's go investigate. Rodimus is just pissed and pouting. I think that's one of my favorite, is that he's just back to being sulky Rodimus, where he's just sitting around I'm dead.
No, my favorite bit is when Ratchet tries to cheer him up, and he's like, "Hey, Rodimus, let's do it till all are one. Wham bam in the fan." Yeah.
Yeah, buddy, it's cool. And he's just sulking. It's oh boy, we have hit rock bottom.
And then
this is the bottom's bottom for Rodimus. This is not how he wanted to go out, man.
And, of course, if anyone was just going to yell at God and demand to speak to God's manager, it would be Rodimus.
I'm extremely hacked off.
long-time listener or long-time fan, first-time caller.
Yeah. Oh God, it owns.
And then when he gets warped in, he just goes, "Put her there."
Hey, there's the guiding hand. Get it? Gonna shake your hand,
But first off, I do want to say my heart broke. I went from laughing to my heart breaking when 10 died for real.
I know. Poor 10.
All he finally gets to talk, and he gets to go on, and he thanks everyone for being so nice to him, and then he's just gone.
Yeah, but he sure as shit doesn't thank Swerve.
Nope.
Oh, poor 10.
And then Swerve just finding him, just going, "Oh, buddy."
Oh, buddy. Yeah. Like, oh man. It's so, So before we get to Rodimus telling God to kiss his ass, we also have finally the whole thing with all the bad things that have ever happened to you can make you into who you are. We have Nautica forgetting Skids actually paying off.
Yeah.
So that she can't be lured away from finding out the truth, like how Brainstorm got lured away by Quark.
Mm-hmm. Or, fucking later on you get that shot of Chrome Dome and Rewind and Dominus.
Yeah.
And they're just like, "We worked it out.
We're happy now." It's like, okay. Again, everybody just sitting around waiting for something to happen. Except for a handful of people. They're all so stupid. I love them. And, but then we get to meet the Scavengers, who are here, too.
Yeah.
So, Ben, I have now read Lost Light twice.
Mm-hmm.
Ish. Really more like 1.5 times because of the whole, just kind of skimming through things. How the fuck did they all get there? Like, I know it's because they got shoved through a portal, but they just ended up on Maderi. How did Tailgate get there?
They mentioned that they, because the Scavengers have the Magnificence, which is part of the guiding hand. They got warped there. Sure. They warped Tailgate there because they needed him because he was on that list that Magnificence mentions later on, where they want the best of the best. So it's Rodimus, Ratchet, Rung, and Tailgate.
Tailgate
are the 4 that they consider the best representatives for the Lost Light.
Right. Interesting.
So he just warped Tailgate there, and it just so happened that he had been put in a coffin to fix his 0.1%er.
Mm-hmm. Ness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay. That's true.
Which there is a straight up mistake that didn't get fixed in the trades because
good.
When the Scavengers get pushed through the portal and they find out they're in Grimlock's cell on Garrus 9, the camera pulls out to show the prison, Garrus 9,
right,
with the characters talking in it.
Right.
So
that would make things confused. That is exactly it.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have been that because that tricks the audience into thinking they're on Garrus 9 and not the characters.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. That is like a sticking point. The thing about this being, a little confusing is that there are, yet again, a lot of moving parts at this point. We have now hit the part of Lost Light where there are approximately 800 moving parts all converging onto the same point.
Not even just moving parts, but teleporting parts, because these guys get warped around a lot.
Teleporting parts hurtling through space, and you're expected to keep track of all of it. Have fun, fucker. So you can be forgiven if you don't quite get what happened at first.
But no, Rodimus basically yelling at God, and calling in Drift, Ratchet, and Ultra Magnus as his counsel.
Drift just immediately hitting the ground like, I'm not worthy. It's like, Drift, I need you to be my lawyer. I need you to Phoenix write this shit so we can get out of heaven.
And I love that, like, the thing that would have worked and if this were any other comic doesn't, where Rodimus is like, why do you need to be sent back? And it's, it's because, well, justice hasn't been served. And it's like, why does that matter? Because I want my ship back. Because, or it's like, no, they ask, like, what do you really want? Do you really, you can't really just want to get away and get your ship back.
Right.
And they go, no, that's it. That's what he wants.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we've got, like, the fucking peanut gallery back there. All three of them. Even
just
Drift,
like, no,
who's trying to see the good in Rodimus. It's like, no, that's exactly what he wants.
That is it. But no, it's because he wants his ship back because he wants to be on the ship where everyone is at their happiest.
Yeah.
And this would have worked.
Yeah.
If it were another comic.
If they, or even if they weren't where they were, because the thing is that, like, this is not God. Clearly, This is not actually God. This is a computer program meant to make you think you're talking to God, basically. And, like, the whole point of the computer program is to make you be cool with dying so that you can be comfortably euthanized.
Yes.
So, like, of course it wouldn't work. Like, they don't care about how happy you are. They just want you to accept that you're dead so that they can euthanize you. So, like, no. If it was, like, maybe, like, a more legitimate conversation with the actual Primus, hang on, that probably would have worked. But, we're not, our gods are not acting in good faith here, is what I'm saying. But, more importantly than that, a thing I've said a lot so far, and a thing I'm going to say a whole lot more before we're done, is, just solid gold. Just the best boy. Like, truly the greatest of all boys, right?
And, yeah, all he wants is for his crew to be happy.
That's it. That's all he wants. From day one, it's all he's ever wanted to do is just to get back on his fucking ship with his friends and goof off in the galaxy forever. And be happy. That's it. Like, he just wants everybody to have a good time. He wants to get back on the Lost Light and have a good time.
And there is a really, really great moment that totally reflects that leading up to this, where it's, they get sent back and they do a bit more exploring and kind of pull back the curtain and see through the illusions, right? Find out where they actually are.
Yeah.
Great fucking callback to the first panel of More Than Meets the Eye.
Oh, yeah.
When he says, welcome to Cyber Utopia, and it's him, Magnus, and Drift in the same poses.
Yeah.
Very good. I love it.
So good.
But, while they're doing the thing where they work through what Cyber Utopia actually is, being the knights were on a journey to find, like, a paradise.
Right.
They got sick, and found this planet that creates a comforting illusion for you.
Right.
To euthanize you. There's a great thing where they're talking about, like, what convinced them that this was Cyber Utopia specifically, and they ask, when you're sick, what's the one thing you want more than anything else?
You just want to go home.
And and Nickel says that. Nickel says you want to go home. And while Rodimus is going into his giant explanation about, like, yeah, but these are explorers. They want to find new things. They're adventurers. So how do you, mesh those two wants together? Right. You create the paradise you've been looking for in the form of, like, ideal Cybertron, right?
Right.
While he's saying that, he has walked over and put his hands on Nickel's shoulders.
I love him.
Like,
I just think he's the best. He's already like, nope, I've adopted the Scavengers. They live with us now. Magnus, can we keep them?
While she's very clearly, like, talking about, like, you want to go home, you want your real team back, this guy she's never met before, who was previously trying to kill.
Yep.
He just walks up to her, and he's like, by the way, now that you're on our team, anyway.
Anyways, welcome to the Lost Light. It is an upgrade from being a scavenger. Also, the other ones get to come too. It's cool.
Yeah.
Don't worry. He just keeps adopting new crewmates because, like, why not? There's enough space on this fucking ship once he gets his baby back to hold everybody, and then everybody can screw around in the universe forever. Theoretically.
Yeah. Also, by the way, just a quick side note, speaking of Cyclonus and Tailgate, this is the third time James Roberts has reverse fridged a gay couple.
You can't. We don't bury our gays in this family.
Even the characters themselves are like, wait, how did Tailgate survive this? And they're like, who cares?
Who gives a shit, man? Are you really going to be angry? I think he even says, like, there's even, somebody says, like, word for word, are you really going to complain about it?
Yeah, exactly. Ratchet says it.
It's amazing.
And he does explain it later, but, like, in the moment, it's like, how did he stay? How can Tailgate stick around? Power of love? Sure, whatever. Who cares? Tailgate's back.
Tailgate's back. We finally, God almighty, it's been, what are we at? 14 volumes now. 13 volumes, excuse me. We finally get fucking Cyclonus saying, I love you. Like, we did it. Fam, we climbed this whole stupid mountain, and now the sad skeleton and the nice race car can be together. Thank you. And just, he's so worried that Tailgate is gonna disappear, and he's like, tell me what to do, and Tailgate's just like, just hold me. And then, fuck you. I love it, because like, they literally buried the gay.
They did. They put him in a big hole.
They put him in a hole underground, and then they unburied him from the ground. Because fuck you, that's not how we roll around here. We don't do that. Everybody gets their happy ending. Sort of. Like, it's great. It's just, that's all I wanted. It was perfect to have that whole culminating moment. And then everything goes insane.
Then everything goes to shit, and a bunch of Spark Eaters show up.
Remember how we had a hard time with one? Well, now there's like 200 of them. Are you having fun yet on Cyber Utopia, guys?
And then, so we have the Crucible story arc is where things get real hard to follow.
That's when things get real fucky. Just roll with it, y'all.
Because the crew of the Lost Light show up as Spark Eaters, yes. And then who arrives to save the day but Grimlock and some of the Protectobots who have found a new ship and have managed to arrive to Midari.
Yes.
So now we've got almost everyone together, and the Scavengers are there, and Nickel is there, and there's that great moment where Ultra Magnus is like, be careful around Grimlock. He's testy against Decepticons. And, they greet him warmly, and he's like, oh, I guess these Decepticons must have adopted Grimlock, and now he's loyal to them. And then one of them asks, so what happened to the baby? And Magnus goes, I don't understand anything anymore.
This has also been the journey of Magnus just slowly losing control of the situation. Yeah. Like, his entire life. Like, now we're officially in volume 4 of Lost Light. So we've now come 14 whole volumes to Magnus just be like, I don't know what's going on anymore. You know what? Fuck it. I'm done.
We get that great moment where it's like, they're like, there are friends, shoot to injure, not to kill. Mm-hmm. And Ratchet shoots Blue Streak and nearly blows him up. And he's like, I swear I did not mean for that to be an example.
Oh, God. It's amazing. It's just everything's gone super wrong, extremely fast.
So That means there's the lost light. That means they can get to they can finally get to Getaway.
I love, by the way, one of my favorite little jokes is just when, like, the lost light comes down and Rodimus can see that he's painted the underside of the ship, and he just goes, "What has he done to you?"
Yeah. But I think one of my favorite bits is there's the scene where they gather like a team to, you know, infiltrate the lost light, right? Mm-hmm. And they get cut off, and it's Rodimus and Cyclonus.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Shouldn't we help?" And Rodimus is like, "Oh yeah, let's go help Ultra Magnus and Grimlock and Thunderclash and all those other guys who famously can't take care of themselves."
Yeah.
It's like they're fine.
Cyclonus and him will be a huge help to fucking Grimlock. Okay.
Right.
Oh, God. But we finally get a confrontation between Roddy and Getaway, and we get probably the greatest own in the entire comic, and that is that Getaway Prime will always sound like rubbish.
Yeah! Because it's so great. Good. Because there is that bit while Rodimus is getting his face kicked in again.
Look, we love a boy who only knows how to get owned. It's fine. Every time... We didn't talk about this during the Functionist timeline because it, like, wasn't that important, but it does need to get it brought up here because it's, like, relevant. There's this great part where one of the Functionist Council is talking, and Rodimus is like, blah, 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 nobody cares, and he just tackles him, right? And it's like, oh, cool, Rodimus just had a hero moment. The next page is Rodimus getting owned. Because he just...
It's great.
He's just not a fighter, guys, alright? He's a leader. It's not his thing. They're not gonna bring back the flaming thing. They literally only do that twice. Once in IDW Phase 1 and once in IDW Phase 2. They're not bringing it back, so he's just gonna keep getting owned. I'm sorry.
But while he's getting his head kicked in, he calls him Hot Rod.
Yeah.
And he manages to choke out not Hot Rod Rodimus. And that leads to not Rodimus Prime, though, huh? I'm going to be a Prime because I'm very cool.
I'm so cool and smart and definitely haven't lost control of this situation in the slightest. It's fine. Don't worry about it. What do you mean the whole crew is now Spark Eaters?
He did that on purpose. That was part of his plan, I think.
Yeah.
Probably.
I'm sure it made sense in his crazy brain. It's fine. He somehow got involved with the Grand Architect. There's a lot going on, guys.
There's that great line to exchange between them where Rodimus says, "You're obsessed with me." And Getaway says, "Surely it's the other way around."
Yeah, and then later he's like, if you weren't obsessed with me, then, like, why aren't you down there helping your crew? And Rodimus is like, fuck. Because, the boy still has some learning to do. But again, they're fine. It's cool.
But, oh, God.
Getaway Prime is always going to sound like a dog shit name. You're never going to be a Prime, bro. You don't have the cojones. But
man, that bit where Rodimus is like, he really thought we were going to kill him. Weren't you?
Yeah.
And then, oh, God damn it.
Go get him. And we finally get our money shot. What we were talking about earlier. This was a paint job that was designed, constructed from the ground up to be removed in, like, an extremely cool moment. And what do you know? Yeah. The moment when the paint job goes away is extremely cool. Shocker.
Yeah.
We get Roddy being... the boy is solid gold. He makes mistakes constantly, and he's rude and petty, and he sulks, and he always gets his ass kicked in fights. But, like, god damn it, his heart is always in the right place, right? Like, he wants to do the right thing. And, that will come up later, too. Don't you worry.
Well.
That's a huge component of a certain speech at the very, very end.
Yes.
He wants to do the right thing, and he just always fucks up. But, like, that is ultimately, like, the thing. Him and Getaway are, like, ideal foils. I do think there is no other kind of character. You could never give Rodimus a cool rival. You have to give him somebody who sucks as much as him in the form of Getaway, right? Because
it doesn't work. You know, the contrast doesn't work unless that's what it is. Like, Rodimus is more interested in the journey and the path that leads to, you know, whatever goal he has, versus Getaway, who just wants the end no matter what it takes.
He wants the end state. He wants, like, the glory of what happens when you complete the quest. But, like, for Rodimus, the fun part is the doing. It's the getting out there and having fun and goofing off. And, like, they have a lot of really similar character traits. They both can't stand Thunderclash, which I think is, like, one of my favorite little ways to establish that him and Getaway are really similar, is that you realize that at one point Getaway is also grumbling about how much he can't stand Thunderclash, because, like, he isn't that great. Like, they have the same kind of complaints about Thunderclash, where it's, like, he isn't that great, he's not so hot, you know. But, like, you know, they both want to be primes, like, desperately, right? Like, they both want to be a prime, but the reason they want to be primes is totally different. Like we said, all the way back in, you know, the first episode of this horse shit, Rodimus wants to be Optimus. Yeah. He doesn't want to be a prime.
God,
it's in the name.
The best way to put it is Rodimus wants to be Optimus, Getaway wants to be Prime.
Yeah, exactly.
They both want to be Optimus Prime, but which half of it do they want to be?
That's it. And so it's the perfect foil character, because they both kind of suck. Both of their plans kind of suck, and they don't think things through that well, and they're always screwing up. And they lose control of the situation, like, really easily. Like, that's not just a Getaway thing. That's the thing that happens to Rodimus all the time. But the difference is that the reason Rodimus can get his ass kicked and fail so often, but always come out on top and still be happy, is that Rodimus has a crew. Rodimus inspires, like, loyalty and has, you know, the charisma to drive it forward. Like, Rodimus has friends, not just a crew, really.
Yeah.
Like, Rodimus has friends and people who love him, who are willing to, like, help him pick up the pieces every time he fucks up and make it work and make it better, so that every time, I mean, even like right before he has his Heart of Solid Gold moment, like Cyclonus says, like, weren't you?
Yeah.
It's not, Rodimus can't even come to the realization that he has to do the right thing by himself. Like, that he has to have other people with him. And that is, like, his strength and his failure, but it, in this case, is way more of a strength and way more of a sense of personal goodness than Getaway, who just sees everybody as stuff, as, like, pawns to be manipulated.
Yeah, it really reminds me, like, the best comparison, like, between, or, like, one of the obvious ones is Atomizer providing Rodimus with the list, right? Mm-hmm. Way back early on. Mm-hmm. And you think about what Getaway's initial plan was, you know, regarding the mutiny, which was taking a tally of which side everyone voted on and then nudge gunning them if they, you know, didn't vote yes on the mutiny.
Right.
And you think about that as Getaway getting data, like breaking everyone down into a single data point on a spreadsheet, and Rodimus just takes that data pad and shoots it.
Yeah.
And he tells Ratchet, you know, I was never going to do anything with it in the first place. He looked at that list not to see who he was going to kick off, mm-hmm. but because
those are the minds he had to change.
He needed to, he couldn't help but hurt himself mm-hmm. by putting names to votes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, he needed to see where he stood with everyone, not so that he could use it against them.
Yeah.
but so that he could always keep it in mind. And
so he could do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Getaway, it's not, like, the mere idea that, like, he asked, like, hey, would you be cool with a mutiny? And then, like, nudge-gunned them to make them forget the conversation is, like, that in of itself is a big giveaway, right? Like,
yeah.
That's, you know, in another universe, the same question would get asked by Rodimus, and he wouldn't even think to, like, nudge-gun them. He'd just be like, all right, well, have a nice day. Bye.
Yeah.
You know? Like... That's where it stands. Like, Getaway just sees people as data points to be manipulated, and Rodimus is like, this is like my crew, and I want to do right by all of them, even the ones who tried to kick me out. I want to make it up to them. You know, it goes back to the whole Optimus telling him he should have quit, and like, no, he shouldn't have quit. That's giving up. Like, that is giving up.
You know, and then which leads to... Once they cure the Spark Eaters by punching them to betterness, which is great.
Oh, it's perfect. It's the exact way that anybody in the Lost Line should solve a problem, right? Like, that's exactly how they would go about solving this problem, of course.
They use the punch medicine, which is also a great moment where, like, they're hemming and hawing about if it'll affect the organics or not, and Nickel just does it.
Yeah, you gotta remember, Nickel is still an ex-member of the DJD.
Yeah,
and she just doesn't care.
But then they're like, you know, like, oh, you were right. You know, if we hadn't done it anyway, they would have died when the Spark Eaters came in. Good job. She's like, yes, that is what I did.
That was my plan.
But you know, once that's done and Rodimus is back in his red and gold, and
boy,
they have a great bit with Cyclonus about trying to put the engines out, and. While their backs are to Getaway, and they're just like... Swerve says that Ultra Magnus writes fan fiction about the sprinklers. I don't understand half of what Swerve says. I don't listen to half of what Swerve says.
Yeah.
We didn't mention it, but there's a bit early on where way back in the beginning, where they're talking about, like, leaving the Necro world, and Whirl is like... Permission to start a petition to make Swerve stay behind? And Rodimus goes, that's ridiculous. You don't need a petition.
Oh, jeez. Oh, Swirl.
But no, the red scraplets devour Getaway.
Oh, God, yeah.
And my Getaway. That's cool.
That's cool, yeah. In his last moments, all Getaway wanted was validation from God himself. Like, okay.
You know what? I'm gonna say that it's kind of a trope where it's like, you know, in a kid's show or whatever, the hero can't just slaughter the villain.
Sure.
So, you know, they usually end up being their own demise, right?
Sure.
Where it's just like, he take my hand, and then, no, I'll die on my own terms, and he dies. Or like Clayton and Tarzan, where he just, like, cuts enough vines and hangs himself, right?
Sure.
I like the inversion of that, where the hero is like, no, I won't kill you. And someone else goes, I will.
I'll do it, and it'll be way, way worse. It would have been kinder for Rodimus to kill Getaway versus the way he actually went out. Like, no, it would have been kinder if Roddy had just put a bullet in his head, for real.
Instead of being torn apart by scraplets.
And left as literally just a spine and a pair of ribs in the middle of a pile of scraplets. Like, it's a pretty raw way to go out.
And then, you know, but they're boarding the crew members back onto the ship. Mm-hmm. And what does Rodimus just say to the crowd?
Obviously, I forgive you.
Yeah, obviously. Hey, guys, obviously you're forgiven.
Obviously. That's it. Like, there you go. That's it. That easy. It's incredible. It's so good. A boy made out of solid fucking gold. We love him. We love to see him thrive and have people who love him, even like the ones who turn their back on him, come back and they're like, Rodimus, it sucks without you. Because he's great. Of course. Even if he fails literally constantly, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So then things go even more off the rails.
So they fly through a portal. And I lose track of where they go eventually, like, immediately.
I instantly lose track of where everyone is at this point. I'm just along for the ride.
Fortunately, literally everyone is on the ship at least. Like, they aren't scattered anymore. The only member of the crew who is not on the ship is Megatron.
And hey, about that...
He's on his way.
Don't worry.
But... First, this is a podcast about us talking about the way things make us feel and how our experiences with it, right?
Sure.
This is the story arc that has my starting point in it.
Oh, really?
It's the page where Rodimus is giving his speech to the Grand Architect.
Yes! That's the exact moment.
That's what I saw, like, 2 some odd years ago. That made me go, I gotta look into this. I gotta find out what this thing's. I didn't even recognize that was Hot Rod. I thought it was Ratchet at first. That's how little I actually knew about Transformers.
Yep. Oh my god.
But I read that speech, and I could hear Sarayo Days playing.
Yep. Gurren Lagann
and I was
as protagonist. What the fuck?
I fucking gotta read. Okay, so I do want to go over the list and where it's all from.
Yes, please. Let's do it.
Because the TF Wiki breaks it down, and I love the TF Wiki, so this is great. So, scene off of Phase 6er. Overlord, obviously.
Easy.
Cured an army of Spark Eaters. They did that the issue before.
Just happened.
Survived a mutiny. 50 to 55 of More Than Meets the Eye. Traveled in time. 36 to 38. Gate crashed the universe. Lost light 1 through 6. Saved half our race. 17 to 21. Liberated planets in issue 50 and then just like assumed to be other times.
Sure.
Defeated the DJD. More Than Meets the Eye 55. Found Luna 1 and the Necrobot in More Than Meets the Eye 17 and 44. Rescued 2 Titans, Metro Titan in the 2012 annual, and Metroplex in issue 26. Been erased from existence in More Than Meets the Eye 31. Stolen a moon, lost light 5. Died and broke heaven in 16 through 18.
Oh god, it owns. I love the line. So if the Grand Architect turns out to be nothing more than the latest in a long line of nobodies trying to prove a point, another sad little trumped up tyrant who throws a hissy fit whenever the world won't listen, then maybe, just maybe, Getaway was right. Because if you're stupid enough to turn this into us versus you, then guess what? We'll win. We've got form.
Oh, it's the best!
It's the best speech ever! Actually no, it's the second best speech ever. The other one comes later. But it owns, right?
One of the things I really like is he says it's not about Team Rodimus, it's about Team Magnus. The names he lists are, if I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering correctly, it's Team Magnus, Team Anode, Team Nightbeat, Team Skids, and even Team Whirl.
Yeah.
One of those names is someone that he just met. Team Anode.
Yeah.
Team Nightbeat and Team Skids are dead.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because it's still about them. Like, they are still part of the crew. They're still, like, it goes back to, like, specifically invoking Skids is, like, having known and then even having forgotten the closeness you had for Skids is what saves the day. Like, it's about all of that. It's about, like, all of the moving parts between these characters who barely know each other, or who do know each other, or who are just completely gone from your life. Like, it's not about who's with you right now. It's about everybody who helped, who have known, and who has helped, and who will continue to help you. it's basically saying, like, a reaffirming of his worldview that, like, anyone can join the Lost Light.
When you join this crew, you're on this crew forever. Mm-hmm. Even after you die, you are part of this team.
Like, how great is that? How great is he?
Like,
come on.
We mentioned it before, but like One Piece, ride or die. Mm-hmm. I eat that shit up. It is one of like the pillars of quality to me in terms of like a good series. Mm-hmm. A good series needs to have your main characters are fucking ride or die forever.
Like, even in death, like, that is the best part, is even in death, like, Roddy is still on your side forever.
Yeah.
Like,
it does not matter. You're with us, you are on this team forever. You know, as far as demerits go, as far as rank goes, it's demerit proof.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter if you're on the bottom or the top. You are there is none of that. There's just one.
Yeah, because, you know.
Except Rodimus gets to be captain.
Except Rodimus gets to be captain, or sometimes co-captain. But the most important part is, till all are one.
It's beautiful. It's great. I love it.
Beautiful. Roddy keeps saying that stupid fucking line, and everybody makes fun of it. But ultimately, like, that's what the Lost Light is. It's just a bunch of people becoming one unit, no matter what. Like, it's a perfect affirmation of his entire worldview of, like, how the world should be. Or at least how his world should be. Like,
Megatron says it later on, or earlier I said, you know, I've never been happier, right? Mm-hmm. But, like, we see it near the end of the series where it's like, everyone considers their time on the Lost Light to be the greatest moments of their lives.
Yeah, it is when they are at their happiest. It's, like, the best time of their life.
In you know, in a lifetime that spans millennia, this brief moment is their best time.
Oh, man. Shit.
But a bunch of shit happens.
Oh, God, and then everything goes insane. Oh, God, it keeps happening. Things keep popping off.
He does bring everyone on board.
Uh-huh.
And guess who's back, baby?
Baby, it's the big man. It's our biggest boy, literally.
Dad's home.
Dad's home, and he painted the car purple. It's a good color, Swerve.
God, no, I love. So, Megatron coming back is fucking insane for many reasons. One, I love that the issue where it ends with him paging Ultra Magnus and Rodimus, right?
Right.
And the way he's sitting, with the way his hand is, you can't see his chest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he does straight up look like he is leading an army.
More importantly, it looks like he is leading an invading force.
And, you know, for you and I, who started with More Than Meets the Eye, so the majority of our Megatron knowledge is him being a tired old grumpy grandpa.
Yeah, sad grandpa.
We're like, oh, there's no way, actually. But if you have perhaps maybe read IDW Transformers since the beginning, and the majority of your Megatron knowledge is him being a terrifying, imposing tyrant, you might actually think, oh shit, he lost his way again, and he is just a Decepticon again.
I actually did briefly, because the way that, like, the panels were working, I did briefly, like, is he the Grand Architect of all of this? And I thought, surely to God not. I was right, of course, but there was, like, a very brief moment. 'Cause, like, I mean, you don't know. I mean, you do know, because look at him. He's like this. He's like the nicest grandpa in the universe in that shot. He doesn't look threatening at all.
No,
like,
he looks very nice. But
that's very nice and happy. But also, you know, that could be a fake out too.
Right. But there is a lot of great banter between them where it's like, ever since you did a runner, and
and
he's like,
yeah,
I didn't
leave you.
Yeah.
It's like
I
infected.
didn't leave you. You bailed on me, and they're like arguing back and forth. And
Dad's back, and he's gonna argue with Rodimus the whole time.
Well, Rodimus threw a party, even though Megatron specifically said not to do that.
It didn't have time to clean the house up before Megatron got back.
After arguing, Grimlock's like, was that Megatron? And Rodimus is like, he's not so bad once you get to know him.
Can't believe I have to say this.
And then I love, there's two lines in this whole exchange that I love, which is, one of them is, where are you right now? You see the field of world crushers? I'm in the green. We're in the green one. Can you see me? I'm waving.
I love the other exchange that's so good. Is basically it boils down to, Rodimus, where are you? And Rodimus just doing his best to not admit that they're in another jail cell.
Yeah.
Where are you? Look, we're in a jail cell, okay? We got caught.
The other one I love is where he's like, all right, stand still and brace yourselves. Why? Well, from your perspective, it looks like I'm going to try to kill you.
One other small Rodimus line that's like a really good throwaway, because again, it goes back to this whole they keep getting arrested thing, is they're in this like waiting room, and then some of the others come in and they're wearing handcuffs, and Rodimus goes, he goes, wait a second, are we wearing handcuffs? This is a jail cell, damn it!
It's the best.
Oh god.
But no, so Megatron comes back and he has had some time alone to think, and he's wearing a fusion cannon again, but then he fixes drift and reveals that it's just a med kit.
I love it. I love that. Okay, so this is something somebody had to reveal to me. I think it was Otzi who told me this. So before the whole my emotional support genocidal tyrant phase of his life, the reason he was so hacked off and like the whole like resenting being a minor thing is that like he wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah, he mentions that when Ratchet is fixing him in Dark Cybertron.
Yeah, he wanted to be a doctor, and just, the whole, at that point, you couldn't get out of the job you were given, so, like, he couldn't ever be one. But he's had 1,000 years of practice now. So he can actually open up the fusion cannon, and surprise, it's a med kit, and he can actually put Drift back together. And it's like, he has that whole great speech to Drift, and he's like, we never really got to know each other, but,
yes.
You started it.
Oh, it's so good. Thank you for setting the path.
It's so good.
Oh.
I love this
it's
old
great.
man.
And then, you get the other moment of the most pure moment of poetic cinema. Mm-hmm. Which is when he's talking about, like, everyone that he's finally reuniting with, and he goes, well, I'll be damned.
Yes!
Spinister, Fulcrum, Crankcase, Croc, Misfire. And they go, he knows our names. He knows our nicknames.
Because he hasn't seen a real Decepticon in 800 some odd years.
And if you think back to him disgracing the DJD by calling them by their real names, and then addressing the Scavengers by their nicknames,
it's beautiful. It's
and
poetry.
You just want to
cry. It's poetry. It rhymes. You just love it. It's like, yeah, these doofuses are more Decepticon than the fucking DJD at this point. Like, they are more accepted by, like, the leader of the Decepticon movement than the DJD probably ever were.
It's like, validating.
It's so good.
And it's really funny because, like, if you think about it, Megatron really should not know who Fulcrum is.
Yeah.
He was designed to exist and die.
But hey,
But sure, he does.
But he does, because he's the best character ever.
Great. It's my favorite moment ever.
In a long, long list of favorite moments ever.
Yeah. This arc is just, like, accelerating, by the way, too.
Oh yeah, we have barely scratched the surface. Things have continued to go insane. Are we now at the point where we can reveal that your psychologist is God?
So, I know it pissed off a lot of people. I was floored at just, that's not Primus. That's Primus. People talk about how Rung is like James Roberts' like Mary Sue self-insert character.
Hardly a Mary Sue. He might be an author insert for sure. He's
an author insert for 100%. But your author insert is this weedy little orange guy that no one remembers and gets like blown up and shot at constantly and can't fight back ever.
Yeah, listen to me. Listen to me. Are you paying attention? Yes. The author insert character is God. Do you get it? Do you get it? The author
The creator.
The creator, his character is God. And more importantly, the defining trait of the creator character is that he's just really easy to forget. Like, the actual writer tends to fall away in the face of just like the greater work, right? It's almost like a death of the author thing. I don't know.
It's like a metaphor. It means something.
Might be saying something about like his ownership over this series, which he explicitly says at the end of the well, he tried to say at the end of the series and then they took it out. But he's been very explicit in his or the degree of his ownership over this series, which is to say, not at all. Like, I don't know.
Do you remember the era of internet culture in the early to mid-aughts?
I'd like to forget all eras of internet culture, thank you.
Where webcomics were very keen on having an author-type character who could manipulate the events of the comic, right?
Sure.
You would just straight up have the author as a character in the comic, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's just a standard trope now, and that's what Rung is.
It's literally what Rung is, but the super important thing is that Rung cannot truly affect that much change.
Yeah, and part of the gimmick of those things is that the author is in charge, but because of the characters being who they are, they are not beholden to the author's whims.
Right.
And will not do as they say. It's super common sprite comic, early odds webcomic thing.
Yep.
And that's just what Rung is in an official, status.
That's it. And, yeah, of course. I'm sorry. Your gods are really disappointing. That's also something's being said there. You know what I mean?
They just start getting popped off, don't they?
All of them die, basically in the same issue.
Yeah, Pharma and Tyrus take each other out.
Uh-huh.
And then Nickel crushes the Magnificence.
Uh-huh.
It's great.
And then Sincera's already been dead for a while now, and he turned into that same kind of dust, which is like a thing, you know? Because really old robots just immediately poof into dust when they're not being held together, basically by the energy of their spark.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to tell you if you don't read into this idea that your gods are really disappointing. I don't know what to say to you if you can't look at that and read something into it about a lot of stuff. You know,
James Roberts spends a lot of time making his characters say things and then looking you in the eye.
Yeah. And just being do you get it? Do you, literally, grinding your nose into it like a naughty puppy? You know what I mean? Do you get it now?
Anno looks at her drink, looks through her drink at the audience, and says, I didn't understand it. Then I went out and saw the world, and suddenly I did understand it. Do you get it?
Do you get it?
Do you remember the bit in the Functionist Universe storyline where Megatron looks up at the sky and looks up at you and says, no one should be able to tell you how to live your own life?
I know.
Do you get it?
Do you get it? Do you get it? So, like, there's a lot going on.
Do you understand?
So, like, yeah, of course, Primus is God, Primus is Rung, and Rung is James Roberts' author insert character, who is a mostly ineffective, kind of weak, really just there to hear other characters talk about their problems, which is like, okay, like, if you've ever, this is a weird thing to make a reach for, but like, whatever, stay with me. There is a fantastic, I've talked about it on this podcast before, there's a fantastic 3.5 hour long discussion / review of Metal Gear Solid 4 on YouTube by Steak Bentley. Everybody should listen to it / watch it, because it's still great. It's like one of the best things in the world.
Why would anyone want to listen to someone talk for 3.5 hours about one specific topic?
I don't know. You know, it's what a waste of your life, right?
Patreon.com/thegorge.
The Gorge. But he talks at length about how, one, Solid Snake is his favorite video game character of all time, and two, how he's kind of softened on the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4, where at the very end they fake out Snake killing himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how Hideo Kojima... So when Kojima was a young man, his father died, right? His dad died when he was like 13. And it's obvious that Kojima has poured a lot of himself into Snake. And what Snake says is basically, if you had the opportunity to have this character that kind of represents yourself get a happy ending and basically get validated by your dad, wouldn't you take it? And so what's going on here is literally, like, James Roberts has been reading these comics forever. Like, he is attached to these characters to the point that, like, his calling card is the number of the issue of Marvel UK that got him into Transformers, right?
Right.
He's literally saying, all I want to be is, like, the person who can maybe help fix some of these characters' problems. Like,
yeah.
If you were going to insert yourself in a story in, like, the most harmless way possible, wouldn't you do it in a way that would, like, help them find a happy ending? Like, that's what's going on here. I think it is the best. It's I don't know. It's exactly how I would do it too, where you just want to see these idiots get a little bit of happiness.
It's very clear that James Roberts, actually, well, he got to start writing fan fiction, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Like, he very infamously wrote a fan fiction back in the day that famously recycles a lot of the ideas into More Than Meets the Eye, right?
King.
It's Fix have been around forever.
Sure.
Just, I don't like the way the deal these characters got. My goal is to give them the support they need, or I think they deserve. And that's basically just what this is, just in an official capacity.
Yeah, like, what is more noble than the fic, truly, right? Like,
right.
It is basically, like, I have imprinted personally on certain characters, and them getting a raw deal makes me feel like I got a raw deal, and I just want it to be better, you know? Like, he's just doing that in official capacity. It owns. It's the best. I would do it too.
One of the things, like, just gets repeated is that you can tell this is just, like, what one of James Roberts' ideals is the idea of a happy ending.
Sure.
For characters is he's of the belief that if you're going to put your characters through hell, it had better be worth it.
Yeah, they better come out the other end. It's literally why he can't kill off, he refuses to kill off, like, you know, all the gay characters. Why would you do that? You know, you finally have these characters finding some degree of happiness, and, like, yes, you want them to end up together and happy and with, like, the life that they fought for, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. It's of course Rung is God. Like, that's what it all boils down to. Of course Rung is God. Like, naturally, who else could he be? Honestly, in retrospect, it's the most obvious thing in the world, especially because he got his head literally blown the fuck off and lived. Like, of course. So people who get mad about that, I don't. No. Rung is great
Because it's like you would think with the complaints that people were like James Roberts treated Rung the way he treated Thunderclash.
Right. Like he's the truly the greatest among us all. No, he's just he's just a dorky psychologist who's just trying to make a couple people's lives a little bit better.
He collects ships, and he gets blown up a lot, and he gets dragged on adventures, and
people forget his name all the time.
The bit where during the Dying of the Light, or the end of it, where Rung and Nightbeat are exploring underneath the planet, and Rung is like, "Well, Nightbeat, I am at the point where I might just raise my voice."
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's great. I love it. And so, yeah, it makes total sense for him to be Primus.
Of course he's Primus. God is more disappointing than you could ever possibly imagine. And he's just some guy, and, you know... He can't even he can save the day, but not directly, which is, again, boy, that's a whole hell of a lot to say about your god.
Right.
You're really saying something there. Like, yeah, God can save the day, but only indirectly by basically providing the tools to save the world. Like, boy, you are making a fucking statement there, if there's ever been a statement made. Yeah, it owns. I keep saying that, but stay with me here. I really like this comic series.
And so, you know, we get the ultimate reveal of what we need to do, which
we didn't even talk about the fact that there's a planet-sized robot.
Oh yeah. The Functionists come back through the portal, and they are piloting Unicron or Cybertron as in robot mode.
Yep, just a big old fuck-off robot.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening in here that is very hard to keep track of because the scale of it is just so enormous that it's incomprehensible.
It's massive. It's utterly massive. I mean, it's cool. I do love that the literal... So the stinger shot that has, like, Megatron being back, like, who else could it be? It's that, and then the next chapter is called The Return of the King.
Yeah, it's great!
It's pretty cool. It's pretty fucking cool. So yeah, the point is that, though, Primus is here, but not like the actual Primus. They just keep calling him that.
The Functionist Primus. And again, the characters even point out, like, not you, the big one. It's all very confusing.
Yeah, don't worry about it. And then we have... this is something that got brought up in the Season 2 episode, and I wanted to just, like, touch on it here real briefly, is that I love that we have this whole... So the Functionist universe exists because Rewind blew away Megatron, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, like, we suffer, but the rest of the universe is way better off.
Right.
And then it turns out, like, no, just give it time.
Yeah.
It's just on a long enough time scale, eventually the universe is still fucked. And it's like, it's like in their nature, you know. I think they even say that. Some character basically says like, "Oh, we just can't help ourselves, can we? Like, we just can't help ourselves in waging war against the entire universe." Even if like the functionists are like an isolationist, you know, movement, they eventually move on to pure imperialist fascism because like they need to impose their ideology on the rest of the universe. So it's like, no, we literally just can't help ourselves. So it was going to happen one way or another, which is again, the robots are stand-ins for people, guys.
It's a metaphor. The robot is a metaphor.
Anytime you see a robot in a cartoon, even like an entire cartoon about robots, they're metaphors. So, you know, just saying.
Just imagine Megatron with a big poster on it that says metaphor on it.
There you go. But no, anyways, so
they're dealing with functionist Cybertron. And it's being piloted, and it's a giant robot.
Yes.
And some more convoluted shit happens.
Oh god, there's so much going on.
Luna 1 appears and knocks it in the back of the head to trigger a spastic transformation. Which
is so fucking good, because literally, it's probably the funniest setup and payoff in the entire series, right? Because, like, since season 1, they have insisted, and I don't think it's ever worked. I think all the way back in season 1,
it worked on Ambulon.
Okay.
Because Ambulon is trying to hide his alt mode, and then someone throws a grenade at him to trigger it.
So, it's only worked the one time then. But there's been this running joke through the whole series that if you hit somebody at just the right point in the back of the neck, you can trigger their transformation compulsively. And it's like, they've done it so many they did it to Rung. They were trying to get Rung to like forcibly transform at one point. And it didn't work. And they just keep doing it. And finally, that fucking joke pays off.
And by the way, it turns out that Fort Max and friends learned this from the future.
Yes.
Because at the end of the storyline, they mention they have to send the message back to the past to
keep
trigger
the loop going.
Because, by the way, the reason all this is happening is because they found Cyberutopia is because they found the Warren.
Right.
Which is a looping wormhole that spits you out in various points in space and time.
Right, and you can use it to travel through space and time really, really fast.
Which is how they fix the timeline inconsistency between Lost Light and Optimus Prime.
And also, it exists at, like, all points in space and time, so, like, you can come in to, like, one point. Basically, that's how Megatron can be from like 800 some, like can be from like 800 some odd years in the future in the functionist timeline, you know. It's all very confusing. There's a lot going on, guys.
You just get that one picture of it and it just looks like someone tied a soba noodle into knots or an udon noodle in knots.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
You're just like, okay, sure, this may as well be happening. Transformers is already so goddamn weird.
Like, my brain has already been fried by just how fast everything is moving that I'm like, yeah, okay, they can be here too.
The Warren is actually what my brain looks like once I get done reading Lost Light, amazingly.
So they trigger that, and then they discover that if you open up a bunch of matrices on the various
hotspots,
the various fields, then, you know, you will save the day and fix the problem. You stop Cybertron from attacking. Because they can't just blow it up because it's still populated.
Like, people still live there. It is still a planet with, like, people on it. So instead, like, this is how they can stop, like, the Functionist Council from controlling it. But that requires a bunch of Matrix of Leaderships. And unfortunately, bye, Rung.
So Rung goes out, and my heart shatters because Rung has become one of my favorite characters since this point, up until this point.
Of course.
I love that he just sits in his office in silence and deletes his patient files.
Right.
And the only thing, his last memory is of Skids reaching down from the vents to yank him to safety from the very beginning of the comic.
I know. And one of the last thing he does is tell Rewind and Chrome Dome, like, you have to forgive yourselves.
He takes their hands and he puts them together and he just says, lucky.
Like, yeah, you are lucky.
So, but this does lead to the best moment in the comic.
The best speech in the comics, hands down.
The touch just starts playing in your head automatically.
Absolutely.
As it's going on. And I like...
And then you start crying again.
Yeah, and you have to read it over and over again because the tears are blurring your eyes and you can't see anything.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It's the best. And what I want to call out specifically is this ties back to Rodimus's earlier speech. The people that he picked to, because he says, like, we don't have time to map it out. When I say your name, come get your matrix, right?
Right.
So, like, Rodimus has a list of names he wants to pass them out to, right?
Right.
The people on that list include Riptide, Thunderclash, and Swerve.
And it includes Anode and Whirl.
No, it includes it was supposed to be for Magnus.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right, but Whirl gets it, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
but
Whirl.
That just goes to show you, like, they're talking about you need the best of the best. Like, the best, Autobots, the ones who do the most good, right?
Yeah.
Because,
it's the matrix of leadership.
To him, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Every single person on that crew can do it.
Yeah.
To him.
They are all the best of the best. Like,
he didn't just say, we need Drift and Ultra Magnus and Thunderclash and, just the top tier characters in Transformers, the series. Right. He just said, anyone, you take one, you take one, you take one, you take one, because I have the faith in all of you that you can do it.
Right. And it, oh God.
Which is why he's so confused that it doesn't work. Because he says, like, why isn't it working? They're all good people.
They're all good people, but they don't believe that they're good people. Like, none of them think that they're... I mean, this is the matrix of leadership, y'all. It's one of the most important things in Transformers. Like, of course you give a bunch of regular people, like, one of the most important things in your culture, and they're like, I'm not good enough to handle this. And it's like, no. And just... the speech is so good. The speech is so fucking good. And it goes back to, like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but Rodimus is just talking about himself, like, the whole time. Because there's this whole part where it's kind of a tangent. He's like, you've had bad plans that, I don't know the exact lines, but he basically says, like, you have bad plans that backfire and you screw up all the time and you hurt other people and you hurt yourself. And it's like, what have we been saying this whole time? That, like, that is exactly what Rodimus is. That's what he does. He screws up constantly. He makes mistakes and he fails, like, routinely. He always gets his ass kicked. But, like, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. It does not matter how much of a failure you are. By
the way, some things worth mentioning about the speech, some really cool details. Mm-hmm. He refers to, like, a metallurgist, a bartender, a doctor, etc., etc. He refers to Whirl as a clockmaker.
He's a clockmaker, yeah.
Not a wrecker, not like a lunatic. He says that Whirl is the clockmaker.
Yeah.
To him.
Like.
fun little trivia bit, though, when he lists, like, we're not the smartest people, we don't have the best firepower, or, you know, et cetera, et cetera. He's listing the stats that appear on the back of the box of old Transformer figures.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? Oh, that's awesome.
Like the categories he names are all like how you would power rank the character you're buying.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so
Great.
good. No, he says, oh, I found it because I was like, I wanted to like find the exact. He says, where'd that go? You've stumbled through life from one self-inflicted disaster to the next without anything even approaching a plan. Like,
that he's just talking about himself.
He's just talking about himself at that point, y'all. Like, it owns. And he says, like, oh, it's the best. Maybe you're not good, but you're sure as hell good enough.
The one that always gets me, like, even just thinking about it gets me choked up, is someone who makes you feel it's okay to be exactly who you are.
Yeah.
That's the one that always gets me. And I love that. But that whole thing, it's couched in of just like someone who makes you laugh, someone whose opinion you trust.
Right.
And I guarantee someone is listening to this and thinking of you in exactly the same way.
Yeah. Like, how great!
It kind of harkens back to the "we've achieved something" sign.
Yeah, well, imagine that the next thing that shows up after all of that.
Where Rodimus was like, okay, everyone turn to your left and congratulate. Well, okay, it doesn't work if all of you do it.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's really... But yeah, you say like it's the "we've achieved something" sign. The cover art immediately after this is the "we've achieved something" sign.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, yes, you have sure as hell achieved something. Mostly turning me into a maniac for a bunch of robots.
But like, I especially love that, like, how many of the quote chosen ones don't open their matrices. Someone else has to open it for them. Or
they have to open it with help. Like, Swerve needs help. Yeah.
Swerve and Misfire having to do it together is great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's great.
And even Team Whirl, like
Whirl
can open it and you know, Ratchet's such a crotchety old man, and he's so excited to actually be opening the Matrix.
Right?
And Lug and Anode are, you know, they're opening it, and it's just like, but even better, and maybe more heartbreaking, is that, do you know who still can't open it?
Megatron still can't do it.
Oh my god, he still can't do it. 'Cause, like, you know, of course he can't. He's Megatron.
Rodimus gets his arm blown off, and Megatron tries, and he can't.
He can't. Of course not. Even, I mean, 'cause, like, you know, I mean, he's Megatron. He could never open it, ever. Like, no matter how many, like, amazing speeches you give, they're just, I mean, you could never, ever convince him that he's worthy to open it, right?
Yeah,
ever.
we'll get to that in just a minute, because I have a lot to say about Megatron's redemption, just as like a thing.
Sure.
But I want to call out that I love how Rodimus doesn't comment on it.
Sure.
In that moment.
He just says, give it here. Yeah.
Yeah, just, all right, I'll take it then. I'll do it. I got it.
And even better is that, like, in contrast to, like, Megatron just not being able to open it at all, Rodimus is so suited to open the fucking thing that he can open it with his mouth. Like, it doesn't take his hands. He gets one of his arms blown off, and he can still just open it, like, by using his teeth and one hand.
Yank it.
Yeah, because he's, like, that suited to open that fucking thing, which is just incredible. Like Like, that's it. That's what this whole stupid journey has brought us to, like, what's going on with these two characters, right? Like, their whole, everything going on with what's going on in their heads and all of their fucking problems is, like, kind of built toward this exact moment, and it's amazing.
So what we do get with Megatron's redemption,
oh god,
is, you know, we've been following this cast of characters this entire time, right? And so the ending of this comic, the last issue of this comic,
how to say goodbye and mean it is pain. Like,
yeah. But, like, the primary topic of it is Megatron's fate, right?
Sure.
And Rodimus doesn't think it's fair. And there's a great callback, by the way, to Megatron's initial trial.
Sure, yeah,
where Rodimus
says,
is like,
you're gonna die and you're probably gonna deserve it.
Yeah, and now he's like, you're going to die or be imprisoned, and I don't think you deserve it. And Megatron has to be the voice of reason here.
Yeah.
And say, oh no, I do.
Yeah, like,
I deserve worse than this.
Whatever happens to me, I deserve worse. Like,
because he spent millennia destroying and conquering and murdering and laying waste and driving populations to extinction, right?
Yeah.
800 some odd years in another timeline is nowhere near enough to even slightly bend the scales.
Yeah, right. Like, it doesn't even come close to making up for what happened.
Not at all. And you can't even call this an injustice. You can't say that Megatron has earned his peace, because he hasn't, because there is no way.
Right.
There's no way. He might have, you know, been forgiven or redeemed in the hands of the Crusader Cons.
Sure.
But they are at most a crew of 200.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant to them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And so, but you're left with this thing of like, well, what do you do? We as an audience want to see, you know, an ending for him. We already know that James Roberts does not like death as a means of redemption.
Right. But also, the problem is that in this case, dying would be kinder. Just straight up being executed would be kinder than being basically imprisoned for longer than anybody else is going to live. So, like, how do you square that circle?
Yeah, how do you make this a satisfying arc narratively? Like, but also making it fit for what an overarching audience, as a fan of Transformers lore, would expect as an outcome for this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how do you do that? The answer is you do both.
You cheat, and you do both, because fuck you, James Roberts has a 13-song playlist of exclusively Morrissey songs for Megatron. So he's like, this boy is getting some kind of a good ending.
And it works super well, because if you do one or the other, it feels like a cop-out either way.
Yeah.
Right?
Because if it's too happy, if we just got the ending where they fuck off to another universe, right, then, like...
It's a betrayal of Megatron's character at that point, too.
It is, obviously. It's a total betrayal of his character, because, like, part of the reason he was so steadfast in even coming back to, like the primary universe is because he understands that, like, he has to stand trial for all the shit he did. Like, he has to face judgment for that, and to run away from it would be wrong. And that's why, like, he still comes back, even though he could just stay in the Functionist universe forever. It's because he knows he needs to try and face justice. Like, that's the only way he could make things right, you know? That being said, if you only did the bad ending, that is the primary focus of How to Say Goodbye and Mean It, that also feels too harsh, because at this point, the readers of More Than Meets the Eye, and exclusively More Than Meets the Eye, of which there are many, many people who just read More Than Meets the Eye first. Like, it's not just you and me. A lot of people got their start with More Than Meets the Eye, I'm learning. That feels, I mean, like, we've spent so much time getting really, really invested in the fates of these characters, and you want them to be okay. So just focusing on the bad part of the ending it feels too punitive. Maybe not to Megatron, but certainly to the people who have gotten really invested in this character and in this story, right?
Right. It's not a satisfying conclusion to his development, because killing a character as a sign of redemption is a bad idea, and it's dumb, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't
Stop
work.
doing it.
It doesn't work. It doesn't make anybody happy. It doesn't fix the problems. It sure as hell doesn't bring anybody back from the dead, you know? Like,
it's a cop-out.
It sucks.
It's because you don't want to handle having to have this character be around anymore.
Right. So what you do is, you do both!
You cheat and you do both, and it works out splendidly in this. And I think it really works out because they did the bad end first, and it's the primary focus of the issue.
Yeah, I think so,
right?
too. Yeah.
Like, the issue is about the characters have split up, and the ship is dismantled. By the way, what do you think James Roberts meant about the Lost Light needs to be decommissioned? Because if it's put up as a monument, or if someone else tries to replace it with something different, it wouldn't be the same, and it wouldn't have the same feeling behind it anymore.
Do you think that means something, Ben?
What do you think that means in terms of the comic books we are reading?
You mean the American comic book industry that often replaces writers and then suddenly things feel wrong?
I wonder if that's a metaphor for something.
I don't know.
Just a big red stamp on the side of the Lost Light that says metaphor.
The Lost Light is a metaphor. Megatron is a metaphor. They're all metaphors. It's fine.
Trans metaphors.
That's it. God.
But yeah, so the focus of it is, the group has split up. The mission, the journey is over. And yeah, this is also a really, really good commentary on, those true companion adventure stories where the end of the story is the team splits up.
Right.
And it's a great, reflection of, in those stories it kind of just ends with them splitting up, and, you get a little epilogue thing of them doing their own thing happily ever after. But for the most part, everyone's still kind of doing okay. They're doing fine. But Swerve even mentions, he hasn't read Nautica's book because he's not ready to be reminded of the good times yet.
Right, yeah. And it's been a while since then at this point.
Yeah.
It's the Lost Light is where everybody was at their happiest, and it kind of stayed that way. They never hit that high ever, even though they're doing, most of them are doing okay, except for Rodimus, which, oh, buddy. Everybody's doing okay. Chrome Dome and Rewind have got their problem, oh god. But they're still together, which is the most important part. They're still together. They still talk in their own way. They're closer than they've ever been in a lot of ways.
Right.
Drift and Ratchet were together for a long time before things ended the way they did. And, Ratchet was happy when he went out, but it's still the happiest they ever were was on the Lost Light, you know? Like, that is when... Because that is... I mean, it makes sense, of course. What is the Lost Light? You know, we joke, but it is also kind of true. It's Roddy's frat boy clown car, right? Like, it's when you can just... You're literally just hanging out with your friends, goofing off, no rules. There's really no true command structure. Like, yeah, Magnus is there to occasionally yell at you, but like, what can he really do? Nothing.
Right. He's not going to send you back.
He's not going to send you back, you know, like, you, like, what's really going to happen to you as long as you don't break the rules too majorly. You're hanging out with your friends, you're going on adventures, you're saving people and having a good time. And like, yeah, of course that would be the best time of your life for most people. And you can never really get that back once it's gone.
Once the team splits up, they don't come back together. Like, it's never gonna be the same. It's never even going. That's the thing about Rodimus's story. Mm-hmm. It's not that he's stuck working under Thunderclash, because by the end of it, he very clearly likes Thunderclash. He gave him a Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that. It's just that out of everyone on Thunderclash's ship, Rodimus, that's the only one Rodimus knows.
Yeah.
He's doing adventures and he's sailing around space, but he's not with the crew. He's not with his crew. And that's why it's disappointing.
Yeah, it can never be the same unless he's with his crew, with like the people he went through all of that stuff with, you know? Like, you can't have that back. And so, yeah, you know, I guess my one, and it's maybe just because, like, I really like Rodimus as a character. I've clearly imprinted on him, if you haven't noticed. Mm-hmm. Like, so it extremely sucks that Rodimus is handling having the Lost Light taken from him. Definitely the worst out of everyone, right?
Oh yeah.
It super sucks for that. Like, I hate that. But also, like, I also get it. Like, yeah, of course he's miserable without his ship, because that's he found the place he was supposed to be, and now, because of the way things worked out, because he is still, at the end of the day, like an Autobot, he gives the Lost Light up in order for it to do some good, you know? Mm-hmm. Because that's what being an Autobot is. That's what being a good guy is, you know, you give up your good time to help the most people. But he's not handling it well.
No, he definitely isn't.
You know, he's super not handling any of it well. And he's still hanging on to, oh god, and Megatron was still holding on to the Roddy Star, and he held on to it too until he could leave it with Ratchet, and like, man, like, what a fucking gut punch for a final chapter. It opens with a fucking funeral. I've never felt more betrayed in my entire life. I was coming off of the ecstatic highs of the last chapter.
The fucking issue ends with, so is this the end? And then Swerve looking down at the to be continued and going, not yet. And it's like, oh, what's gonna happen? Oh, Ratchet's dead.
Oh, okay. Well, fuck. Yeah,
which,
what a betrayal.
By the way, Swerve can do that because he was still under the effects of that the meta bomb that the meta switch that he triggered with Brainstorm.
Oh right, so yeah,
way back when Overlord first attacked.
Oh god, but yeah, like, fucking the worst fake out ever. I was riding highs and I was feeling great, and then I get kicked in the mouth, and it just, you know. I like this ending, but I also hate this ending, you know? Just because... Mm-hmm. But I mean, that all comes back to, like, a thing we've been talking about across all of these, usually in reference to Megatron himself. But, like, just in general, like, I like these characters. I want them to be happy. I don't care about the greater storyline or whatever, because again, this is my first piece of Transformers media. I don't care about the overarching thing.
It's like what we talk about with Mass Effect.
Yeah.
When we found out that Mass Effect 4 is in production, when we're both just like, yeah, artistic integrity is dead. Retcon the ending.
Retcon the ending. I don't care anymore. Like, who gives a shit? I don't care about the overarching plot of your stupid fucking Transformers comic. Do you know what I want? I want everyone to goof off in Roddy's fucking frat boy clown car in space forever. Which
again is the heart of the Fix-It fic, where it's just like, yes, I understand that narratively this character's death was important, or this betrayal was significant, or whatever, or this breakup needed to happen.
But have you considered that I don't care?
So I want to pretend it didn't happen.
Exactly. Like, I just want everybody to be okay forever. So like, this is like, I like it from a writerly standpoint. I also hate it. I hate that even the sad part exists. Like that it's in my brain, like haunting my brain like a ghost forever. So every time I see these characters, I think about the fact that there is a possible future where they do have a bad ending, and I don't like it. But I also do like it. That's not. I mean, I'm just mad.
And it does work because of those last few pages.
Oh, thank God for those last few pages.
Because it couldn't end on it couldn't not end on a happy note, right?
Right.
It had to. That's what this whole thing was going for. Ever since the first issue, it was leading to this. And when you narratively are like logically being guided to a bittersweet downer ending, you have to commit to that. That's where the plot took you. Mm-hmm. But when you're working with sci-fi and bullshit, you can also at the last second veer into a different direction.
Because, hey, you've got quantum drives on your fancy, cool, massive spaceship, and you can trick Prowl into letting you have one last victory lap. And you can replicate the accident that caused this whole story to go off the rails literally from day one, and hope to God it works and everybody gets to exist in at least one timeline doing exactly that, hanging out together forever in Rodimus's frat boy clown car, going on adventures and saving people, and the party never ends. You just live like that forever. And because you live in a sci-fi bullshit universe, that is also a perfectly valid ending.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what you can get. You can do that, and
James Roberts, who has been is aware of the army that he has built around this comic.
Yes.
Ends it by basically giving his audience the keys.
Yeah.
And says, here, I have given these characters a blank canvas. You do what you want with that idea.
Do whatever you want. Over to you.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what we were saying earlier about how James Roberts is aware that he doesn't own these characters, that this is just like a story he's telling with them, and it goes back to this whole idea of that his author insert is God, what we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm. But what that ties into is Rung may be God, and Rung may have created or has brought these characters to this position. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't control them.
Right.
He is just temporarily hosting them.
Yep.
It's why Rung is one of the characters who has been on the ship from start to finish. Mm-hmm. Because he's just there to be in their presence, and then when he dies, that's the signal that the adventure is coming to an end. Mm-hmm. And it's someone else's turn to be wrong.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I know some people are kind of bitter that wrong gets forgotten, but I get it. And I'm more narratively okay with Rung being forgotten than I am with Rodimus being an alcoholic. Because, like, you know, it's more meaningful in a way because, like, to him, being forgotten, I mean, he deletes all his patient files for a reason because he gambles on being forgotten so that people can kind of move on with their lives and keep going, you know?
Mm-hmm. But he says, "Don't forget me."
I know, but I know. It's still just like,
This would hurt less if Rung had a better figure I could buy.
If I could just buy a better Rung toy, maybe I wouldn't be so... Then I couldn't possibly forgive him, because I'd have him in plastic on my shelf.
He only has a little battle master that's like an inch tall, and he turns into a little gun thingy. He needs like a proper, like, 6-inch figure, or even like a mini-con, like, 4-inch figure or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. It is hard, because at that point, like, Don't Forget Me is even more explicitly like a call to the reader, more so than to maybe the characters, you know? Like,
right.
It's like a, hey, like, I made my mark on this series, so don't let that go. And I don't think it will. I think
this is we're going to see influences of this. If not, even in IDW 2, where characters like Nautica and Cyclonus are very prevalent in roles that they are not usually, like, focused in. Like, for Nautica, obviously, just being around in a big way is a big deal. And for Cyclonus, who is primarily just another Decepticon lieutenant for Galvatron, to have him in IDW2 kind of be just like a loner veteran who is just kind of his own faction.
Right.
Is very clearly more than meets the eye inspired.
Yeah, it's very much like, you were telling me how, like, Sentinel Prime has not always been an asshole. Like, he's kind of been, like, a mentor character. And then Transformers Animated was like, what if he was an asshole and he stayed that way forever?
Right. Same with Ratchet being an old man, which is just kind of stuck ever since Animated.
Yeah. It's the same thing, you know. It's you know for a fact that, like, certain character influences are probably going to stick around forever, which is what you hope for when you're writing a series like this. You want, you know, that's your way of leaving a mark. The way to say, like, don't forget me, is to do this with these characters and make such a big imprint.
Which is why I really, really like these kinds of series that have tons of iterations, like Transformers or TMNT or whatever, where it's kind of like what I would love for the big two to also get. Yeah. Like Marvel and DC. Which is, well, instead of continuing just one big universe, we're just going to do some reboots every so often and rebrand things. Yeah. So that you can kind of just explore these characters and pick the parts that you like from previous ones and iterate on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's why everything should be in the public domain.
I know. It's why everything should be in the public domain. Literally everything. If you've been around since 1980 something, like, for your fucking series, you should just be in the public domain at this point. I'm sorry. That's already long enough for people to be making money off of the copyright. Like, at this point, everybody should just have the rights to the fucking Transformers. You know what I mean?
Looking at you, Walt.
The ghost of Uncle Walt haunts us all to this day. We'll never be free of the mouse. But yeah, it's just... What a fucking series, right?
More Than Meets the Eye is the best comic I've ever read. I've said this over and over again.
Sure.
And it feels like such a gift to the fandom at large, and not just the fandom just like since the 80s, but also as a way to bring about whole new types of fans.
Yeah, I think that's like the most important part, is that it is obviously, clearly because it worked on you and me, so it has to have worked on a lot of other people. It's a insanely well written, extremely contained story that you can just give to people. You can just hand this shit to your friends and be like, read this, you'll love it. And then you've made new Transformers fans.
I say this in the most loving way possible. I have never seen harder Tumblr bait than More Than Meets the Eye.
It's so true. It was constructed in a lab to get girls to like Transformers even more. And girls have always liked Transformers, like in a really big way. Girls have always been Transformers fans. But like, no, Simon Furman, not less than 1% of your fandom is girls. I assure you of that. But no, More Than Meets the Eye was generated to bring more people in. For sure.
Because it sucks you in with, hey, these robots is gay.
These robots is gay, and then it's like, hey, want to see how hard I can cry? Yeah,
you guys like sad old men over on Tumblr, right? Well, here's one.
Here's a bunch of them, actually. It's just bursting at the seams with sad old men and handsome gay samurais. 2 of them, actually. And yeah, no, it's perfect because it is so self-contained, and there's so much going on in it that you can literally just be like, here is all of More Than Meets the Eye and Dark Cybertron for some godforsaken reason. That's the only sticking point.
The only weak point in this series is you have to be like at least a little familiar with Transformers lore in general to get through Dark Cybertron.
Yeah, and what sucks is that Dark Cybertron, it's like, I can't even tell people to skip Dark Cybertron, because otherwise they're going to start season 2 and be like, why the fuck is Megatron here? And it's like, I got explained in this really subpar miniseries that happened in the middle of all this good shit.
So you know who Shockwave is? No? Crap. Okay.
Yeah. So,
alright, so you might have to read the first 5 volumes of Robots in Disguise.
Where are you going? Come back.
No, trust me, please, no.
No. So instead you just have to tell somebody, like, I know it's hard, but I need you to just read Dark Cybertron with no context whatsoever, and if you're still hooked after that, then you can go back and read Robots in Disguise and it'll make sense, I promise.
All you need to do is care about when you see members of the Lost Light on the page or Megatron.
That's it.
That's it.
Don't worry about anything else. Yes, I do know it's extremely weird that Megatron became an Autobot because of Bumblebee. Just stay with me, okay?
That gets expanded on. It's fine.
It's fine. It's cool. So... But other than that, other than the one stumbling part of Dark Cybertron, More Than Meets the Eye is a gift to the fandom in the sense that it perpetuates the fandom, which is extremely important. Mm-hmm. You can't, as much as people love to joke about being a fandom of just you and your friends, that's not what maintains things. It's not how you keep getting good stories, or even how you keep getting, like, fandom stories. Because if there's nobody around to read it, then people tend to move on to other stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So in that way, yeah, it truly is like a gift to just Transformers in that it creates new people who love this stuff, who actually care.
In the way that animated feels like a celebration of Transformers before it, with just the number of just like, hey, here's this character, and, here's a reference to this thing. More Than Meets the Eye feels like that tribute is being directed at the audience instead.
Right, absolutely. So, obviously, if you've sat through all of this and listening to all of this, and for some reason you haven't read More Than Meets the Eye after listening to all of this, 1, why? 2, go read
do it.
Book.
I'm sorry that you'll start buying action figures because of it.
It will drive you insane. I have so far purchased 2 model kits of Rodimus and Megatron, and I purchased a stuffed Grimlock. Because I need that Grimlock real badly.
Like, I was like, alright, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna collect members of the Lost Light.
Sure.
That's gonna be my focus, right? Like, that's what I was gonna do, is I'm gonna get these crewmates. But then I was like, I do like Soundwave, though.
Yeah.
Windblade does have a neat design.
Then you make the mistake of, because, like, More Than Meets the Eye made you really like Transformers. You're like, what if I watched Prime? Well, now I have to own all the characters from Prime, and that includes Optimus. But that's not that many more, and then it just keeps piling on.
And then it spirals, and I'm looking over, and today, Galvatron, Rat Trap, and Vertebrake arrived.
Oh, how nice.
So it's just like, alright, well, this is it now.
This is my life now.
This is just where I am.
And it's bad because I am significantly more resistant to toy purchasing than Ben. The fact that I bought 3 is huge. So you are gonna have to fight really, really hard. I know.
Because if you're anything like me, if you break the seal, you're done.
You're done.
It's never gonna end.
Hey, Red Lantern Reviews, how's that collection of boys coming? If you're listening to this,
you've bought 2 model kits and a plushie. Yep. You're still safe.
I'm still good.
You're in the clear because those are merchandise.
Sure.
They're not toys.
Correct.
But if you buy that Siege Megatron.
But if anybody is out there and can hook me up with a really nice Transformers Prime Soundwave, I will pay. I will pay a king's ransom for the boy.
Let me check TF Safari.
Oh no! Don't do this to me. If I could just get one really nice Prime Soundwave, who actually has like the skinny arms. I know that's not very conducive to toys, but if it's like a higher quality toy for grown-ups, then maybe he can have the cool arms. Also, the other nice Transformers Prime Soundwave I found is not the right color. He's like blue and not like black purple, you know?
So I'm looking on TF Safari and I do not see Prime Soundwave.
Whew, dodge that bullet.
So I think you're good.
I'm safe for now.
Because Prime Soundwave is hard to come by.
I bet he is. Good to know. See, very dangerous.
Because his toy was made in the early 2000s.
Oh no.
And then they didn't make more of it.
Good to know. Shit. Well, I may never have my boy. I do have a model of IDW Megatron from More Than Meets the Eye. And when I finally put him together, I might marry it. I might marry that toy. Mother, this is my new husband. His name is Megatron. Do you understand? So, it's fine. I've gone insane. The comic drove me insane. Hey, this episode came in at under 4 hours.
We spent at least 11 hours talking about one comic series.
So, that might be proof that it's good. I don't know. If you can talk about something for that long, does it make it good? I don't know. I think it's good. I think you should read it.
And I feel like we're just going to keep referencing it in things now.
I know, it's a huge problem. Like, it's going to keep coming up. We're gonna keep having, like, Transformers moments during roundups and stuff. And, I mean, this isn't going away. There's so much Transformers merch that I don't... The thing about, like, other stuff, like when you play other video games and shit, is that eventually the video game ends, you know? But, like, this is never gonna end. It's never going away.
No, it's forever. It's forever. Transformers is forever.
Yeah. So, thanks, Ben, for putting these worms in my brain.
I mean, it's what we do to each other.
I know. This is friendship right here. This is true friendship, is inflicting series on each other.
We just poison each other with things, and it's just this time just so happens to be a thing that gets a lot of content regularly, unlike, say, Final Fantasy or Persona or Tales.
Tales games, yeah. So,
it's the exact same poisoning, it's just that this particular franchise just constantly gets new content.
It's a longer running poison. It's long-term poisoning instead of little small bursts of it.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to start seeing signs of Transformers fandom in my fingernails, is what I'm saying.
So just look forward to us occasionally.
Nobody's going to get that joke except for me. Heavy metal poisoning shows up in your fingernails, if you didn't know that. Anyways.
We're just going to occasionally, like, our wrap-ups, our roundups are going to be littered with Transformers content.
Oh god, it's going to be awful. Be looking forward to other Transformers episodes if something really stabs me in the brain.
Yeah. We are already in the talks of next TransforMAY, where we talk about the yearly content review,
ranking everything in order from More Than Meets the Eye to The Last Night, and where everything else fits in the middle there.
Oh, it's great. I think I'm tapped out for now, though. Just because of physical exhaustion, not out of things to say.
I know. It's a huge problem. God help us in our limited fleshy forms, because we are not robots that turn into Dodge Vipers, unfortunately.
Sadly.
Tragic to say. Okay, Ben.
All right.
Do you think you got it all out of your system, mostly?
For now, I'm satisfied with the amount I've gotten out. It's not all out, but I'm okay with this.
Happy TransforMAY, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to us for this TransforMAY. It was tons of fun. This was supposed to be our break month, and we ended up doing way more content than we usually do.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you to DJ Cutman for use of background music. You can follow me on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. You can follow Sara at radioinactivity. You can also send us an email at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. And again, patreon.com/thegorge. If you get us to $200, we will do the bad game. Please make me stream The Bouncer. If you want to listen to Sara talk for 4 hours about other things, sometimes there are giant robots in that one, you can listen to her other podcast.
Hey, I'm in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends get together and play tabletop games. We always try out lots of different systems. It's always a lot of fun. You can find us at Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and you can find the links to the rest of our social media from there. Thanks.
All right, that is it for us. And as always,
one last time for the road as we head out into that wild blue yonder to explore space and put this Megatron figure together. Fuck Getaway.
Fuck Getaway.
Yo, really though, fuck Getaway.
Fuck Getaway.
Like, once you read the Neon Hellcat on Twitter, we tricked her. We tricked her into reading it. We got her. And literally afterwards, said on Twitter, like, oh no, I get it now. Fuck Getaway. Like, yeah, once you read it, you will know. You will understand. Fuck Getaway.
It's like that fucking Tumblr post where it's like, Why does everyone hate Mineta? I don't understand. He's just a little grape boy. Then the next post is, I get it now.
I get it now. It's every single post on Tumblr where someone goes, oh, but Cubey is cute. And then the next post is, die, fucker. It's that.
Yeah.
It's just that. We all hate Getaway. Fuck Getaway. All my homies hate Getaway. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.